They found the boy on the highway at 2 a.m., standing in freezing rain like he'd been waiting for death to collect him. 12 years old, bruised face, eyes too old for his body. He wasn't hitchhiking, wasn't running, just standing there in the dark while 18-wheelers screamed past close enough to kill him. When Creed Mercer's headlight caught him, the kid didn't move, didn't flinch, like he'd already accepted whatever came next. But here's what nobody knew yet, what would crack open in the weeks to come. This wasn't some runaway story. This was something darker, something the system had buried, something a dying mother had whispered with her last breath. And the Rust Reapers Motorcycle Club was about to uncover a nightmare. Before we ride into this storm together, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from, and buckle up. Because this story doesn't let go until the very end. The rain fell like punishment that November night outside Black Hollow, Wyoming. Not the clean kind of rain that washed things away. The cold, vindictive kind that soaked through leather and bone and made a man remember every mistake he'd ever buried. Creed Mercer rode alone, which was how he preferred it lately. The highway stretched empty and black ahead of his Harley's headlight, mountains rising like broken teeth against storm clouds. His breath came out in invisible clouds inside his helmet, the kind of cold that made your lungs ache. He'd left the clubhouse 2 hours ago without explanation, just nodded to Bones and walked out into the storm. The brothers knew better than to ask. When Creed got quiet like that, when the ghosts started circling, you gave him road and solitude. The war had ended 8 years ago, but nobody told his nervous system. Then his headlight caught something that made him brake hard enough to feel the back tire slide. A kid, standing on the shoulder, soaked through, motionless. Creed's heart kicked against his ribs with combat instinct. Wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. Kids didn't stand alone on highways at 2 in the morning. Sit. They didn't stand perfectly still while rain hammered them. They didn't stare at oncoming headlights without raising a thumb or waving for help. He pulled off 60 feet past the kid and killed the engine. Silence rushed in except for rain drumming on pavement and the tick of cooling metal. Creed sat there for a long moment, hand resting on his thigh near the knife he kept strapped to his belt. Years of staying alive in bad places taught you to hesitate, to read a situation before stepping into it. The kid still hadn't moved. Creed swung off the bike and turned. Water poured off his leather jacket as he walked back, boots splashing through puddles that reflected distant lightning. The boy, and Christ, he was just a boy, maybe 12, stood with his hands at his sides. Torn hoodie, jeans that hung wrong, sneakers held together with duct tape that had gone gray with age. But it was the face that stopped Creed cold, bruised along the left cheekbone, split lip healing badly, and eyes that looked like they'd already seen the end of something. "You okay?" Creed kept his voice low, non-threatening. The kind of voice you used with wounded animals or shell-shocked soldiers. The kid didn't answer immediately, just stared at him with an expression that had no fear in it, no hope either, just calculation. Like he was measuring whether this stranger was another kind of danger or something else. "I'm fine," the boy said finally. His voice barely carried over the rain. "You don't look fine." Creed took another step closer, slow and deliberate. "You look like you're trying to get killed out here." "I wasn't." The kid's jaw tightened. "I was just walking." Walking. Creed glanced at the empty highway stretching in both directions. Nothing but darkness and storm. "From where?" The boy hesitated, his hands curled into fists at his sides, then relaxed. A nervous tick. "Town. Black Hollow's 11 miles back." "I know." Thunder rolled across the mountains like God clearing his throat. The kid didn't even blink. Creed studied him with the kind of attention that came from years of reading men in firefights. The way he held himself, tense but controlled. The way his eyes tracked movement without seeming to. The bruises that told stories in shades of yellow and purple and fresh red. This wasn't neglect. This was systematic. "What's your name, Creed?" Creed asked. Creed Borishkothen. Another pause. The kid's eyes flicked to the Harley, then back to Creed's face. Taking inventory. Making decisions. "Eli?" "Eli what?" "Does it matter?" Creed almost smiled. Almost. The kid had spine. Broken, beaten, soaked through and standing on a highway in the middle of nowhere, but still had spine. "Yeah," Creed said, "it matters." Grayson, Eli Grayson. The name landed between them while rain continued its relentless assault. Creed filed it away next to all the other details his brain was cataloging without permission. The way Eli's breathing stayed shallow and controlled. The way he positioned himself at an angle, never square to Creed. The way his weight stayed on the balls of his feet like he might need to run. Defensive positioning? Not natural for a kid. I'm Creed. He gestured toward the bike. That's my ride. There's a clubhouse about 4 miles up the road. Coffee, dry clothes, phone if you need to call someone. Eli's expression didn't change. I don't need to call anyone. Foster system? The kid's eyes went flat. That was answer enough. Creed knew that look, had seen it in mirrors for most of his 20s. The look of someone who'd learned that the people supposed to protect you were often the ones you needed protection from. Come on, Creed said, turning toward the bike. You can't stay out here. Why not? Creed stopped, looked back. The kid stared at him with something that might have been challenge or might have been genuine curiosity, like he really didn't understand why standing in freezing rain on a deserted highway was a problem. Because hypothermia is a shit way to die, Creed said flatly. And because I'm not leaving a kid out here to find out. Eli didn't move. I'm not getting on that bike with a stranger. Smart. Creed nodded. Your foster folks teach you that? Life taught me that. Thunder cracked close enough to feel in their chests. The storm was getting worse. Creed could see Eli starting to shiver now, small tremors running through his thin frame. Kid was shutting down. Body giving up even if the mind hadn't yet. Here's the deal, Creed said, keeping his voice calm and clear. You can get on the bike, or I can call the cops. Those are your options, but you're not staying out here. Eli's jaw worked. His hands flexed again, that nervous tick. For a moment, Creed thought he might actually run, bolt into the darkness and take his chances with the wilderness. But then something shifted in those old young eyes. The clubhouse, Eli said carefully. That's where bikers are. Yeah. Dangerous people. Creed considered that. Yeah, probably. So why would I go there? Because dangerous doesn't always mean what you think it means. Creed held his gaze. And because right now, I'm the only option standing between you and that storm. The seconds stretched while rain hammered and lightning painted the world in brief, stark flashes. Creed watched the kid's decision play out in micro-expressions. Fear, calculation, exhaustion. Something else he couldn't quite name. Finally, Eli moved. Slow steps through puddles, sneakers squelching. He stopped next to the Harley like it might bite him. Creed handed over his only helmet. This'll be big on you, but it's better than nothing. Eli took it with both hands, staring at the worn black shell like it was a foreign object. Then he pulled it on. It swallowed his head, made him look even younger. Creed swung onto the bike and felt it dip when Eli climbed on behind him. The kid was light, too light. Creed could feel each individual rib through the wet hoodie when Eli's hands gripped his sides. Hold on tight, Creed said over his shoulder. Road's gonna be bad. The engine roared to life, and they rode into the storm. The Rust Reapers clubhouse squatted on the edge of Black Hollow like a predator watching the town sleep. 2 stories of weathered wood and brick, surrounded by a gravel lot that crunched under motorcycle tires and boots. Neon sign buzzing in the window. A grim reaper riding a vintage Harley, casting red and blue light across puddles. 4 bikes sat in front when Creed pulled in. Bones, Trigger, Hack, Viper. The door opened before Creed killed his engine. Bones stood in the doorway, 6'4", and scarred like a road map of bad decisions. His eyes went from Creed to the kid behind him, and something flickered across his face. Surprise. Then something harder to read. Eli climbed off the bike slow, hampered by the oversized helmet. He stood in the gravel looking at the clubhouse like it might swallow him whole. Inside, Creed said, more command than suggestion. He followed Eli through the door into warmth and the smell of old leather, motor oil, and coffee that had been on the burner too long. The main room sprawled before them, scarred wooden floor, mismatched furniture, pool table under a hanging light, walls covered in motorcycle parts and faded photographs of rides from decades past. 3 men sat around a battered table playing cards. They all looked up when Creed and Eli entered. Trigger spoke first. Older than the others, gray in his beard, eyes that had seen combat in 2 wars. Hell you bring home, Creed. Found him on the highway. Hack, skinny, wired, covered in tattoos that told the story of a decade in prison, let out a low whistle. Kid looks like he went 10 rounds with a truck. He's cold, Creed said, ignoring the commentary. Needs dry clothes and hot food. Viper pushed back from the table. Youngest of the crew at 32, but his eyes were just as dead as the rest. I'll grab something from upstairs. The room fell into uncomfortable silence after Viper left. Eli stood just inside the door, dripping on the floor, still wearing that too big helmet. His hands stayed at his sides, but Creed could see the tremor in them now, shock setting in, body finally registering that it was safe enough to start breaking down. Take the helmet off, Creed said quietly. Eli's hands came up slow. He fumbled with the strap, fingers not cooperating. Bones stepped forward and crouched down, his massive frame somehow managing to look less threatening at the kid's eye level. Here, Bones said, and his voice came out gentler than his appearance suggested. I got it. He undid the strap with practiced ease and lifted the helmet away. Eli's hair stuck up in wild directions, soaked and dark. The bruise on his cheek looked worse under the lights, purple and yellow spreading toward his eye. Bones stared at it for a moment. His jaw went tight. When he spoke again, his voice had lost all that gentleness. Who did this? Eli's eyes went to the floor. Nobody. Kid. I fell. Bullshit. Eli's head snapped up, something flashing in his eyes. Defiance, anger, fear. I don't know you. Why would I tell you anything? Bones studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Fair enough. He stood, towering over Eli again. But you're shaking like a dog in a thunderstorm, and that's going to get worse before it gets better. So here's what's happening. You're going to put on dry clothes, you're going to sit by that space heater, and you're going to drink something hot. After that, we'll figure out the rest. It wasn't a question. Viper came back down the stairs with an armful of clothes. Sweatpants, hoodie, thick socks. All too big, but dry. He handed them to Eli without comment. Bathroom's through there. Creed pointed to a door off the main room. Get changed. Leave the wet stuff on the floor. Eli took the clothes and disappeared into the bathroom. The door clicked shut behind him. The four men stood in silence for a beat. Then Trigger spoke, voice low. What's the play here, Creed? Don't know yet. Can't just keep a kid. I know. So what the hell you thinking? Creed pulled off his wet jacket and hung it on a hook by the door. Water dripped onto the floor in a steady rhythm. I'm thinking he was standing on the highway at 2 a.m. in a storm. I'm thinking those bruises aren't from falling. I'm thinking someone hurt him bad enough that he'd rather take his chances with the cold than go home. That's a lot of thinking, Hack said. None of it our business. Maybe not. Creed looked at him. Or maybe it is. Since when we run a shelter? Since I found a kid about to die on my highway. The bathroom door opened. Eli emerged wearing clothes that hung off him like he'd borrowed them from a giant. The sweatpants were rolled at the ankles, the hoodie swallowed him, but he was dry, and some color had returned to his face. Bones gestured to a chair near the space heater. Sit. Eli hesitated, then moved to the chair. He sat on the edge like he might need to run. His eyes tracked every movement in the room. Viper poured coffee from the pot on the counter and brought it over. It's black. Got sugar if you want it. Black's fine, Eli said quietly. He wrapped both hands around the mug like he was trying to absorb the heat through his palms. Steam rose between them, and for the first time since Creed found him, the kid's shoulders dropped slightly. Still tense, still ready, but marginally less braced for impact. The men drifted back to their card game, but the atmosphere had changed. They were watching without watching, keeping Eli in peripheral vision, measuring him the way predators measured unknowns in their territory. Creed pulled up a chair across from the kid. You want to tell me what you were doing out there? Eli sipped the coffee, winced at the heat, then sipped again. Walking. Bullshit. Why do you care? Because I pulled you off that highway, and now you're my problem. Creed leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So I need to know, are the cops looking for you? Did you run from somewhere? Is someone going to come through that door looking to collect? Eli's eyes flicked to the door, then back to Creed. I'm in the system, foster placement, but nobody's looking. Nobody's looking? Creed let that sit for a moment. What's that mean? Means they don't care where I am as long as I show up for school and don't cause problems. Your foster parents, foster father, just him. He know you're gone? Probably. He gonna call it in? Eli's laugh came out bitter and broken. No. The way he said it made something cold slide down Creed's spine. He'd heard that tone before. In refugee camps. In villages where the wrong people had power. In the voices of soldiers who'd seen what humans could do to each other when nobody was watching. That bruise on your face, Creed said carefully. Your foster father give you that? Eli didn't answer. Just stared into his coffee like it might have answers written in the steam. Kid, I don't want to talk about it. That's not how this works. I'm not asking for help. Eli's voice went sharp. You picked me up. I didn't ask. I'll stay until the storm passes, then I'll go. Go where? Silence. Eli, go where? The kid's jaw worked. His hands tightened on the mug until his knuckles went white. When he finally spoke, his voice came out barely above a whisper. I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. Just not back. Bones had stopped pretending to play cards. He sat with his massive arms crossed, staring at Eli with an expression that could have been anger or could have been something else entirely. How old are you? Bones asked. 12. Christ, shit. Trigger shook his head. He's 12. You got other family? Creed pressed. Someone we can call. No. No family or no one you want to call? Both. Eli set the mug down on the floor with careful precision. My mom's dead. Dad was never around. No grandparents, no aunts or uncles, just nobody. The words landed in the room like stones in still water, each one sending ripples that disturbed the surface of men who'd all grown up the hard way, who'd all learned too young what it meant when the world looked away. Viper spoke up from the corner. System put you with this foster guy? Yeah. How long? 3 years. And he's been... Viper made a vague gesture toward Eli's bruised face. Doesn't matter. Kid, it matters. Why? Eli's voice cracked. Why does it matter? Nobody cares. The caseworkers don't care. The teachers don't care. The neighbors definitely don't care. So why the hell would a bunch of bikers care? The question hung there like an accusation, and maybe it was. Maybe this 12-year-old with bruises and duct-taped shoes had learned the truth about the world faster than any of them had. That caring was currency most people couldn't afford. That protection was a myth sold to children who didn't know better. Creed stood slowly, walked to the window and stared out at the rain still hammering the parking lot. His reflection stared back, bearded, scarred, wearing the kind of exhaustion that came from carrying ghosts. You're right, he said without turning around. Nobody cares. System's broken. World's broken. People like you fall through cracks so wide they might as well be canyons. He heard Eli shift behind him, defensive, ready for confirmation of every dark truth he'd already learned. But here's the thing, Creed turned back. Sometimes you don't fall. Sometimes someone catches you. Not because they're supposed to. Not because they're good people or because they believe in saving the world, but because they know exactly what it's like to stand on that highway in the rain waiting for nothing to come. The room had gone completely silent, even the card game forgotten. Every man in this room, Creed continued, his voice low and steady, has been where you are. Maybe not the exact same story, but the same feeling, that nobody's coming, that you're alone. That survival is something you do by yourself or not at all. He walked back to his chair and sat down, leaned forward again until he was at eye level with Eli. So yeah, we care, not because we're heroes, but because we remember. Eli stared at him with those two old eyes, and for just a second, something cracked in that carefully constructed armor. Something that might have been hope, or might have been terror at the thought of hoping. I don't need, he started. Stop! Creed's voice went hard. You need food, you need sleep, you need to not be beaten. Those aren't luxuries. Those are the bare minimum of what every kid deserves. So here's what's going to happen. You're staying here tonight. Tomorrow we figure out next steps. But tonight, you sleep somewhere warm and dry, and nobody puts a hand on you. Got it? Eli's throat worked. He looked around the room at the four men watching him. Dangerous men, violent men, men with records and scars and histories that would make most people cross the street. But right now, in this moment, they were the only people who'd stopped. "Okay," Eli said finally. Bones nodded. "I'll set up the spare room upstairs." "You hungry?" Viper asked. Eli hesitated, then nodded. "I'll make something." The room shifted back into motion. Cards abandoned, Bones heading upstairs, Viper moving to the small kitchen in the back. The storm outside continuing its assault on the building. Creed watched Eli sip his coffee and try not to look like he was about to shatter. And in the back of his mind, a question formed. A question that would keep him awake for the next several hours. What kind of man sends a 12-year-old into a storm? And more importantly, what was he going to do about it? Cheers. Eli fell asleep at the table. One moment he was eating the sandwich Viper put in front of him, mechanical bites like food was just fuel. The next moment his head tilted forward, eyes closing, body finally surrendering to exhaustion. Creed watched it happen, saw the exact second the kid's defenses collapsed. "He's out," Trigger said quietly. Bones came back downstairs. "Room's ready." Creed stood and moved to Eli's side. The kid didn't wake when Creed carefully lifted him. He weighed nothing. All bone and angles and the sharp edges of survival. His head lolled against Creed's shoulder as he was carried upstairs. The spare room was small, bed with clean sheets, window overlooking the parking lot. Bones had even left a light on, small lamp in the corner casting warm light across worn floorboards. Creed laid Eli down and pulled a blanket over him. The kid's face went slack in sleep, and without the constant tension, he looked exactly what he was. A child, bruised, beaten, but still a child. Creed stood there for a long moment, staring down at him. Memories rising like floodwater. Different faces, different places. Same helplessness. He turned off the lamp and walked out, leaving the door cracked. Downstairs, the men had reconvened around the table. Coffee refilled. Silence heavy between them. "So," Hack said when Creed sat down, "what's the plan?" "Don't have one yet. Can't keep him." "I know. System's gonna come looking. I know." "So what? We just send him back to get beat on?" Creed's hands curled into fists on the table. "No." "Then what?" I said, I don't know yet." His voice came out harder than intended. "Give me a minute to think." Bones leaned back in his chair, making it creak. "Kid said he's been in the system 3 years. That's a long time to take a beating without someone noticing." "System doesn't notice what it doesn't want to see," Viper said. "You know that." "So we what? Call social services? They're gonna do shit." "Maybe not." Trigger scratched his beard. "But they're the legal route, and we can't just steal a kid from foster care." "Why not?" Hack's eyes glinted. "We've done worse." "Because this isn't about us," Creed said flatly. "This is about him, and doing this wrong means he ends up in a worse situation." The truth of it settled over them like snow. They were outlaws. Criminals in the eyes of most. Men with records and reputations. They couldn't just walk into the system and demand justice. The system didn't work that way for people like them. But they also couldn't just look away. "Tomorrow," Creed said finally. "Tomorrow I'll make some calls, talk to some people, see what options exist. And tonight? Tonight he sleeps." Thunder rolled across the mountains one more time, distant now. The storm passing, leaving behind cold and dark, and the sound of water dripping from eaves. Upstairs, Eli slept. And downstairs, 5 men who'd survived by not caring began to care. Creed didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window in his room, cigarette burning between his fingers, watching the parking lot gradually lighten with pre-dawn gray. His mind wouldn't shut off. Kept cycling through possibilities and problems, and the look in Eli's eyes when he said, "Nobody cares." Around 5, his phone buzzed. Text from Bones. "You up?" Creed. "Yeah, Bones." "Come down." He found Bones in the garage behind the clubhouse, the space where they worked on bikes and engines and anything that needed fixing. Bones stood at a workbench, hands braced on scarred metal, staring at nothing. "You okay?" Creed asked. "No." Bones didn't turn around. "Keep seeing that kid's face. Keep thinking about where he'd be if you hadn't been riding last night. Yeah. Keep thinking about all the kids that nobody finds. Creed moved to stand beside him. Lit another cigarette, even though he'd promised himself he'd quit. Can't save them all. I know. But we can save this one. Can we? Bones looked at him. You know how this works, Creed. System's gonna fight us. Court's gonna fight us. We're gonna spend months trying to do this right, and in the end, they're gonna send him back anyway. Because we're bikers. Because we're criminals. Because the system protects itself, not kids. So what? We give up before we even try? I'm saying we need to be smart. Strategic. Can't go in guns blazing. I know. Do you? Bones' voice went sharp. Because I've seen that look before. The one you get when you decide something's your mission. And missions get people hurt. Creed took a long drag, blew smoke toward the ceiling. Kid's already hurt. Yeah, but he could be dead if we do this wrong. The words hung between them like a threat, not from Bones, from reality. From the cold truth that good intentions paved roads to hell, and those roads were littered with kids who'd trusted the wrong people. I'll be careful, Creed said finally. You better be. They stood in silence while the world outside continued its slow crawl toward morning. Engines ticked, metal settled. The smell of oil and gasoline filled the space like incense. You remember what it was like? Bones asked quietly. Being that age? Being that scared? Every day. Yeah, me too. Eli woke to sunlight streaming through an unfamiliar window and the smell of coffee drifting up from below. For a moment, he didn't move, just lay there trying to piece together where he was. Then memory slammed back, the highway, the rain, the biker, the clubhouse. He sat up fast, too fast. The room spun. The door was still cracked open the way he vaguely remembered it from last night. Light spilled through, voices drifted up. Men talking in low tones, punctuated by the occasional scrape of a chair or clink of a mug. Eli's heart hammered against his ribs. He was still here, still in the biker's clubhouse, still away from... His hands went to his ribs on instinct, checking. The bruises there were older, yellowing, but they still ached when he pressed too hard. The clothes he'd been given last night still fit wrong, too big, but they were warm and dry and clean. He couldn't remember the last time he'd worn clean clothes to bed. Slowly, carefully, he got up and moved to the door, peered down the stairs. The main room looked different in daylight, less menacing, just worn and lived in. 3 men sat at the table, the big one called Bones, the older one with the beard, and the thin tattooed one. They were drinking coffee and talking in voices too low to make out. Then Creed came in from outside. He saw Eli on the stairs and stopped. You're awake. The other men looked up. Eli felt exposed, vulnerable, like he'd overslept somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. Come down, Creed said. We need to talk. It wasn't a request. Eli descended the stairs slowly. Each step felt like walking towards something inevitable, something he couldn't control. When he reached the bottom, Creed gestured to the table. Sit. You want coffee? Okay. Viper, the younger one, poured another mug and slid it across to him. Eli wrapped his hands around it and waited. His stomach was tight, his breathing shallow. Creed sat down across from him. You sleep okay? Yes, Oops. Yeah, good. Creed's eyes were steady, assessing. Now we need to talk about what happens next. Eli's chest tightened. Here it came, the part where they called the cops, called social services, sent him back. I can just go, he said quickly. You don't have to. I mean, I appreciate last night, but I can... Stop. Creed held up a hand. Nobody's kicking you out, but we need to figure out what comes next. And to do that, I need you to be honest with me. Eli stared at him, waiting for the trap. There was always a trap. Your foster father, Creed said carefully, the one who gave you those bruises. You go back there. Is he going to hurt you again? The question hung in the air like smoke. Eli wanted to lie, Wanted to say it was fine, that he'd handle it, that he didn't need help from dangerous men in a motorcycle clubhouse. But the truth clawed up his throat before he could stop it. Yes. The word came out small, broken. Creed nodded once, like he'd expected exactly that answer. Okay, then you're not going back. Eli's head snapped up. What? You heard me. You're not going back. You can't. The system. Fuck the system. Creed's voice went hard. The system put you there. The system ignored what was happening, so fuck what the system thinks happens next. Bones leaned forward. But we're gonna do this right. Legal. So it sticks. How? Eli asked. His voice shook. You're bikers. You're... No offense, but you're criminals. The courts aren't gonna... You'd be surprised what we can do when we try, Trigger said. But right now, Creed continued, right now you stay here. Safe. And we start making calls. Eli shook his head. He'll come looking for me. Darren, my foster father. When I don't come back, he'll... Let him come. The way Creed said it made every man at that table go still. There was a promise in those 3 words. A threat. Something that spoke to violence, held on a leash but ready to slip free. And despite everything, despite the fear and the exhaustion and the lifetime of learning not to trust anyone, Eli felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. It might have been hope, or it might have been the first whisper of belief that maybe, just maybe, someone was finally going to fight back. Okay, he whispered. Creed's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression went dark. What? Bones asked. Creed turned the phone so they could see. Text message from an unknown number. You got something that belongs to me. Return it by tonight, or we got problems. The room went cold. How'd he get your number, Rusty? Viper asked. Doesn't matter. Creed's voice had gone flat. Dangerous. What matters is he just made a threat. Eli's blood turned to ice. That's him. That's Darren. How'd he know you were here? I don't... Eli's mind raced. Maybe he saw me get on the bike. Maybe he followed. I don't know. Another text buzzed through. Kid's mine. Legal and official. You got no right. So either bring him back or I call the cops and report a kidnapping. Trigger swore under his breath. He's got a point. Foster placement means legal custody. We keep the kid. We're looking at serious charges. So we call his bluff, Hack said. Tell him to call the cops. Let them sort it out. Cops show up, they take Eli back, Bones pointed out. That's how this works. Unless we can prove abuse, Creed said. With what evidence? Kid's bruised, but there's no documentation, no medical records, no paper trail. It's his word against a foster parent the system already trusts. The logic of it settled over them like a cage. They were trapped. Damned if they kept Eli. Damned if they let him go. Eli felt it all crashing down. The brief moment of hope. The possibility that maybe things could be different. All of it dissolving into the same familiar truth. He was powerless. They all were. I'll go back, he said quietly. No. Creed didn't even look at him. It's the only... I said no. Creed stood, began pacing, his mind working through scenarios. We need leverage. Something that makes Darren back off. Like what? Viper asked. I don't know yet, but I'll find it. Another text. You got 3 hours. Then I'm making calls. 3 hours. Creed stared at his phone like he could will it to combust. Then he looked at Eli. This foster father of yours, Darren Pike. You know anything about him that we could use? Anything dirty? Illegal? Eli thought hard, trying to remember. He drinks. A lot. Sometimes he brings people over late at night. I hear them arguing about money sometimes. What kind of money? I don't know. Just money, like someone owes someone. It wasn't much, but it was something. Creed turned to Hack. Can you dig? On what? Darren Pike, financial records, court records. Anything that might explain why he's so eager to keep a foster kid he beats. Understanding dawned in Hack's eyes. You think there's something else going on? I think a man who gets that aggressive that fast is protecting something, and I want to know what. Hack nodded and pulled out his laptop. Give me an hour. Creed looked at the rest of them. We hold the line, no matter what. And if the cops show up, Trigger asked, then we deal with it. But Eli doesn't go back, not today. Not until we know he's safe. The declaration landed like a stone, final, absolute. And somewhere in that clubhouse, in that gathering of broken men and scarred souls, a line was drawn that none of them would cross, no matter what came next. But outside, morning light continued its slow crawl across Black Hollow. And somewhere in that town, Darren Pike was making phone calls of his own. The countdown had started, and nobody knew yet just how dark this was about to get. The clock on the wall ticked toward noon while Hack's fingers flew across his keyboard. The sound filled the silence like a metronome counting down to something nobody wanted to face. Coffee had gone cold in cups around the table. Cigarette smoke hung in layers near the ceiling. Outside, clouds rolled in again. Another storm building. Eli sat in the corner, wrapped in a blanket someone had given him, watching everything with those two old eyes. He hadn't spoken in over an hour. Just observed, calculated. Waited for the moment when these men decided he wasn't worth the trouble. Creed stood by the window, phone in hand, staring at Darren's last message like he could decode some hidden meaning. 3 hours had become 2. Then 90 minutes. Now they were down to 45 minutes before Darren made good on his threat. Got something, Hack said suddenly. Every head in the room turned. Hack's face was lit by the blue glow of his screen, shadows cutting harsh lines across his features. Darren Pike, 43, works construction when he works. Which hasn't been much lately. But here's what's interesting. He's been collecting foster care payments for Eli for 3 years. State pays $900 a month for a standard placement. That's not unusual, Bones said. No, but this is... Pike's got 3 other foster placements on record over the past 8 years, all boys, all between 10 and 14. All stayed with him for exactly 2 to 3 years before being moved to different placements. The room went cold. Moved why? Creed's voice was deadly quiet. Records don't say, just transferred to other homes. No abuse reports filed. No investigations. Clean transfers. That's not clean, Trigger said. That's a pattern. Hack kept reading. And get this. Pike's got a sealed juvenile record. Can't see what's in it, but it's there. Plus 2 DU is in the past 5 years. 1 assault charge that got dropped. And he paused, scrolling. Multiple complaints to child services that went nowhere. Neighbors reporting screaming, teachers noting suspicious injuries. All documented, all ignored. Jesus Christ. Viper's hands curled into fists. Eli made a sound, small, broken. When they looked at him, his face had gone white. You knew, Creed said. It wasn't a question. I knew there were others. Eli's voice came out rough. Before me. I found boxes in the basement once. Kids' clothes, different sizes, old backpacks, like he kept trophies or something. The word hung in the air like a noose. The word hung in... Did he... Bones couldn't finish the question. He hit them, Eli said flatly. I don't know what else, but I heard him once, drunk, talking to someone on the phone, laughing about how easy it was, how the state just kept sending him checks, and nobody ever looked close enough. Creed's phone buzzed. Another text from Darren. 30 minutes. Hope you made your peace with jail time. Smug bastard, Hack muttered. He thinks he's untouchable, Creed said. The system protects him, has for years. We're just another obstacle he knows how to navigate. So what's the play? Trigger asked. Creed stared at his phone for a long moment, then he made a decision that would change everything. We don't give Eli back, and we don't wait for the cops. Creed, Bones started. We go to him, right now. And we make him understand that this time is different. That's kidnapping, Trigger pointed out. That's a felony. That's all of us going down. Only if he reports it. Why wouldn't he? Because we're going to give him a reason to walk away. Understanding rippled through the room. What Creed was suggesting, what he was really suggesting, lived in the space between legal and catastrophic. It was the kind of play that couldn't be undone. Bones stood slowly. You're talking about threatening him. I'm talking about making him understand the stakes. With what leverage? We got nothing solid, just suspicions and sealed records we can't access. We got Eli's testimony, which means shit without corroboration. You know that. Then we get corroboration. How? We got... Bones checked his watch. 28 minutes before he calls the cops. You gonna solve this in half an hour? No. Creed's voice went flat. But I can buy us time. He grabbed his jacket off the hook and headed for the door. Where are you going? Viper asked. To have a conversation. Alone? Yeah. No, that's a bad idea. Probably. Creed pulled on his jacket. But it's the one I got. Eli stood up fast, blanket falling away. Don't go, please. You don't know what he's like. He's good at this, at making people believe him, at making it seem like everything's fine. Creed looked at him, really looked, saw the fear there, raw and genuine, the fear of someone who'd watched adults fail him over and over again. I know, Creed said quietly, but I'm not most people. He'll call the cops the second you leave. Let him. They'll take me back. No. Creed's voice carried absolute certainty. They won't. He walked out into cold air and climbing wind. His Harley sat where he'd left it, chrome dull under gray skies. He straddled it and kicked the engine to life. The roar cut through the morning like a promise of violence. Behind him, the clubhouse door opened. Bones came out. You're going to get yourself arrested, Bones said. Maybe. Definitely. Creed looked back at him. You got a better idea? Several. None of them involve you going alone to threaten a man who's got the law on his side. I'm not threatening him. Bullshit. I'm reasoning with him. With what? Your fists? Creed's jaw tightened. If it comes to that. And when you're sitting in a cell, what happens to the kid? You take care of him. How? We got no legal standing, no custody, nothing. Cops show up, we hand him over, or we all go down. Then don't let the cops show up. Bones stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, sharp and bitter. You're out of your mind. Yeah, probably. This is going to blow up in our faces. Yeah, we're going to lose everything. Maybe. Creed revved the engine. But at least we'll have tried. He rode out before Bones could argue further. Down the gravel drive, onto the main road. Wind cut through his jacket like knives. The town of Black Hollow spread before him. 2 stoplights, 1 main street, houses that had seen better decades. Darren Pike lived on Maple Street in a yellow house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. Creed had gotten the address from Hack's research. He pulled up in front and killed the engine. The sudden silence felt ominous. He sat there for a moment, hands on the handlebars, breathing steady. Combat breathing. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The way they taught him in the Marines before everything went to hell. Then he dismounted and walked to the door. Knocked twice. Hard enough to rattle the frame. Movement inside. Footsteps. The door opened. Darren Pike was exactly what Creed expected. Mid-40s, soft around the middle, thinning hair, eyes that calculated angles before showing emotion. He wore jeans and a stained t-shirt, smelled like beer and old sweat. He looked Creed up and down, took in the leather, the size, the scars, made his assessment. You must be the biker, Darren said. His voice carried mockery. Come to return my property? He's not property. State says different. Got papers that say he's my legal responsibility, which means you're currently committing a crime. You beat him. Darren's expression didn't change. I discipline him. There's a difference. Boy's got a mouth on him. Needs correction sometimes. Correction. Creed tasted the word. Found it rancid. That what you call breaking ribs? Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. They stared at each other. 2 predators sizing up territory. Darren stood in his doorway like it was a castle. Like the law was a moat nobody could cross. You got 10 seconds to get off my property, Darren said. Or I'm calling the cops. Go ahead. That surprised him. Darren's hand, already moving toward his phone, paused. What? Call them. Tell them you want to report a kidnapping. Then explain why the kid you're supposed to be protecting was standing on a highway at 2 a.m. in freezing rain. That's none of your business. It is now. Darren's eyes narrowed. You think you're some kind of hero? You're not. You're a criminal playing dress-up. And the second the cops dig into you and your little club, they're going to find enough to lock all of you up. Is she second? Maybe. Creed took the step closer. But they're also going to find enough on you to ask questions you don't want to answer. Like what? Like why 3 other boys went through your house before Eli. Like why there's a pattern of complaints that got buried. Like why you're so desperate to keep collecting those state checks. Darren's expression flickered, just for a second, but it was enough. You're guessing, Darren said. Am I? You got nothing solid, no proof. Just some kid's word against mine, and I got documentation. Medical records showing he's clumsy. School reports showing he's troubled. Social workers sign off saying everything's fine. You got nothing. He was right. Creed knew it. Standing there on that sagging porch, he knew Darren held every card that mattered. But he also knew something else. Here's what's going to happen, Creed said quietly. You're going to withdraw your complaint. You're going to call social services and tell them you can't handle Eli anymore. Request an emergency transfer. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to make it my personal mission to dig into every corner of your life, every sealed record, every complaint, every boy who went through this house. And I'm going to find what you're hiding. You can't access sealed records. You'd be surprised what I can access. Darren's jaw tightened. This is harassment. I could have you arrested right now. Do it. They locked eyes. Two men who'd both learned how to read violence in another person, how to measure threat against risk. Darren spoke first. The kid's damaged goods. You really want that problem? He steals. He lies. He's got issues you can't fix. He's 12. He's trouble. He's a kid you beat, according to him. And like I said, his word against mine. Creed felt something cold and lethal settle in his chest. The same feeling he'd had in combat right before pulling a trigger. The moment when talking ended and action began. Let me be clear, he said, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Eli's not coming back here. Ever. You can fight it. You can call the cops. You can make this as ugly as you want. But at the end of it, that kid's still not coming back. And you're going to have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is whatever you're protecting worth what I'm going to put you through? Darren stared at him, calculations running behind his eyes, weighing options, measuring costs. You're threatening me, he said finally. I'm promising you. A car drove past. The sound of its engine faded into distance. Somewhere a dog barked. Life continued in its mundane way while two men stood on a porch negotiating a child's future. I want compensation, Darren said. The words landed like stones. Creed blinked. What? You heard me. I lose the kid. I lose income. $900 a month. I want compensation for that loss. Rage, white hot and barely controlled, surged through Creed's system. You want me to pay you? Call it a settlement, keeps everything quiet. I walk away, you keep the kid, everybody wins. You're selling him. I'm being practical. You want him? Pay for him. Otherwise I call the cops and we let the system sort it out. And we both know how that ends. Creed's hands curled into fists. Every instinct he had screamed to put this man through the porch, to make him understand pain the way Eli understood it. But that would put Eli right back in the system, would give Darren everything he needed to be the victim. How much? Creed asked through gritted teeth. 10,000. Cash. Non-negotiable. That's extortion. That's business. They stood in silence. Wind picked up, carrying the smell of coming rain. Creed made a decision. You'll have it in 48 hours. Darren smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd just won a game they'd been playing for years. Knew you'd see reason. Get me the money. I'll sign whatever transfer papers you want. Kid's yours. Legally and officially. And if I come back and you've called the cops, I won't. Got my word on it. Your word means shit. Then I guess you better trust me anyway. Creed turned and walked back to his bike. Every step felt like swallowing glass. Behind him, he heard Darren's door close, the sound of locks engaging. He sat on his Harley for a long moment, breathing hard, trying to calm the rage threatening to consume him. $10,000 to buy a kid, like he was property, like he was merchandise. But it was also a way out. He started the engine and rode back toward the clubhouse through thickening clouds and rising wind, his mind already calculating where he could get that kind of cash, how fast he could make it happen. And in the back of his mind, a voice whispered that he'd just made a deal with the devil. He walked back into the clubhouse to find 5 pairs of eyes locked on him. "Well?" Bones asked. Creed shrugged off his jacket, moved to the table, sat down heavy. "He wants money." Silence. "How much?" Trigger asked. 10,000. "Christ," Hack whistled low. "That's extortion." "Yeah, I know." "You agree to it?" "Yeah." Bones slammed his hand on the table. "You what?" "I bought us time, 48 hours. We get him the money. He signs transfer papers. Eli stays." "That's not how this works." Bones was on his feet. "You can't just buy a kid." "It's how he's making it work. It's illegal. So is half the shit we've done." Creed's voice went hard. "This is the play. Take it or leave it." "This is insane," Bones paced. "Even if we get the money, there's no guarantee he follows through. He could take the cash and still report us. We'd be out 10 grand and facing charges. He won't." "How do you know?" "Because he's a coward, and cowards don't fight when they can profit." Eli spoke from the corner, his voice small. "He's right. Darren only cares about money. That's all he's ever cared about." "See?" Creed gestured. "Kid knows him." "That doesn't make this a good plan," Trigger said. "Were we even going to get 10,000 in 48 hours? Silence fell again. Harder this time. Because that was the real question. None of them had that kind of cash lying around. The club ran lean, always had. "I got about 2 grand saved," Viper offered. "Same," Hack said. 3, Trigger added. Bones sat back down heavily. "I got 4, but that's everything. That's rent, food, bike payments." They all looked at Creed. "I got 1,500, he admitted. They did the math in silence. Came up about 2,000 short. "We could sell something," Hack suggested. "Bikes, gear. Takes time we don't have." "What about Griff?" Viper asked. The name landed like a bomb. Griff Sawyer, former club president, now running a chop shop 2 towns over. He'd left the Rust Reapers 3 years ago under circumstances nobody talked about. Bad blood, broken trust, the kind of exit that left scars. "No," Bones said immediately. "He's got money," Viper pressed. "He's also got reasons to tell us to go to hell. It's worth asking." "It's not." Bones looked at Creed. "Tell him." Creed stared at the table, at the coffee rings and cigarette burns and years of history carved into scarred wood. Griff, Christ. He hadn't thought about Griff in months, had actively avoided thinking about him. "What happened with Griff?" Eli asked. "Nothing you need to worry about," Creed said. "But he could help." "He could. He won't." "How do you know?" Creed finally looked up, met Eli's eyes. "Because the last time I saw him, I told him if he ever came back, I'd kill him." The words settled over the room like snow. Eli absorbed that. What did he do? Got someone hurt. Someone who trusted him. Who? Creed's jaw worked. He didn't want to go there. Didn't want to open that particular wound. But Eli was staring at him with those 2 old eyes that had already seen enough of the world's ugliness. Lying seemed pointless. "My brother," Creed said quietly. "Griff was supposed to watch his back on a run. Got distracted. Got careless. My brother ended up in ICU for 2 weeks. Did he make it?" "Yeah, but he's not the same. Brain damage. Lives in a facility now." Understanding dawned in Eli's face. "That's why you came back. Why you're here instead of wherever you were before." "Yeah, and that's why you stopped on the highway. Why you picked me up." Creed didn't answer. Didn't need to. "So we don't call Griff," Trigger said, breaking the silence. "We find another way." "Like what?" Hack spread his hands. "We're tapped out. Got no assets to liquidate fast enough. And we can't exactly walk into a bank for a loan. We could do a job," Viper said carefully. Every head turned. "What kind of job?" Bones asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "The kind we used to do. Before we went semi-legitimate." "No." Creed's voice was flat. "It's fast money." "I said no." "Then what's your plan?" Viper's frustration bled through. "We can't magic money out of thin air. We got 2 days. Either we get creative or we lose the kid." "We're not robbing anyone." "Why not? We've done it before." "That was different." "How?" Because back then we didn't have anything to lose. Creed's voice rose. We do a job now. We're risking everything. Cops are already looking for reasons to shut us down. We give them one, it's over. And then what happens to Eli? The logic was sound, but it didn't solve the problem. They sat in tense silence while the clock on the wall ticked away seconds they didn't have. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was here. Eli stood up slowly, walked to the table, looked at each man in turn. I'll go back, he said. No, Creed started. Listen to me. Eli's voice was steady, older than his years. I'll go back. Tell Darren I ran away. That you tried to return me, but I wouldn't let you. Take the blame. Keep you out of it. Absolutely not. It's the only way. It's not happening. Why? Eli's composure cracked. Why are you doing this? Why do you care? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Just let me go back. It's easier for everyone. Easier doesn't mean right. Right doesn't pay the bills. The outburst echoed in the space between them. Eli's chest heaved. His eyes were wet, but no tears fell. He'd probably learned a long time ago that crying accomplished nothing. You want to know why I care? Creed asked quietly. Yeah, I do. Creed stood, walked to the window, stared out at gray skies and the first drops of rain starting to fall. When I was 14, he said, my old man used to knock me around. Not as bad as what you've been through, but bad enough. One night he came home drunk and angry and decided I needed teaching. Put me through a wall, broke my collarbone. He heard the others shifting behind him. They knew parts of this story, but not all of it. I ran, Creed continued. Made it about 2 miles before a trucker picked me up. Big guy, beard, looked like he could snap me in half. I was terrified, but he bought me food, let me sleep in his truck. Next morning, he drove me to a police station and waited while I filed a report. Rain picked up outside. Harder now. That trucker's name was Eddie Malone, and he saved my life. Because without him, I would have gone back, would have believed I deserved it, would have ended up dead or worse. Creed turned to face Eli. So yeah, I care because Eddie Malone cared about a scared kid he had no reason to help, and because I know exactly what it feels like to believe you're not worth saving. Eli stared at him, something breaking behind those old eyes. I'm not worth $10,000, he whispered. Yeah, you are. I'm nobody. You're somebody to us. The words hung there. Simple. Devastating. True. Eli's face crumpled. The armor he'd been wearing for God knows how long finally shattering. He made a sound, half sob, half gasp, and Bones moved fast, crossing the room to wrap the kid in arms that could break bones but instead offered only shelter. Eli shook. Bones held him, said nothing, just stood there being solid while a 12-year-old finally let himself break. The other men looked away, giving privacy to pain they all understood too well. After a long moment, Eli pulled back, wiped his face with his sleeve. I'm sorry. Don't be, Bones said. I didn't think. I know. Eli looked around the room at the scarred, dangerous men who'd decided he was worth fighting for. Thank you. Creed nodded. We're not done yet. Still need to figure out the money. I'll call Griff, Bones said. Everyone turned to stare at him. You said, Creed started. I know what I said, but this is bigger than old grudges. Bones pulled out his phone. We need the money. He's got it. I'll make the call. He's not going to help. Maybe not, but I gotta try. Bones walked to the far corner of the room and dialed. They watched him talk. Watched his expression go from neutral to frustrated to something that might have been anger. The conversation lasted 3 minutes, then he hung up. Well? Trigger asked. He'll lend us the money. Relief rippled through the room. But there's conditions, Bones continued. The relief evaporated. What kind of conditions? Creed asked. He wants collateral, something worth more than 10 grand, and he wants to deliver the money himself, face to face. No, that's the deal. I'm not seeing him. Then we don't get the money. Creed's hands curled into fists. What's he want for collateral? Bones hesitated. The clubhouse deed. Silence crashed over them like a wave. He wants the clubhouse. Hack's voice was flat, disbelieving. It's worth 30 grand easy. Gives him security on the loan. And if we can't pay him back, then he owns it. That's... Trigger couldn't find words. That's everything. That's our home. I know. We can't... What choice do we have? Bones spread his hands. We're out of options. Out of time. This is it. They all looked at Creed, waiting for him to make the call, to decide if saving one kid was worth risking everything they'd built. Creed stared at the floor, at the scarred wood that held decades of history, of brothers who'd lived and died under this roof, of promises made and kept. Then he looked at Eli, still standing in Bones' shadow, still trying to understand why anyone would fight this hard for him. Do it, Creed said. You sure? Bones asked. No, but do it anyway. Bones nodded and made another call, this one shorter. When he hung up, his expression was grim. He'll be here in 2 hours. Good. Is it? Trigger asked. Because this feels like we're making a deal that's gonna bite us. Probably. Creed grabbed his jacket. I need air. He walked outside into rain that had turned serious, cold drops that soaked through everything. He stood in the parking lot, letting it hammer him, trying to clear his head, trying to quiet the voice that said he was making a catastrophic mistake. The clubhouse door opened behind him. Eli stepped out. You shouldn't be out here, Creed said. Neither should you. They stood in the rain, two souls trying to figure out how they'd ended up here. Why'd you really stop? Eli asked. On the highway. The truth. Creed was quiet for a long time. Rain ran down his face, down his neck, soaked through his clothes. Because I saw myself, he said finally, standing there, waiting for someone to care. And did they? Someone care? One person, that trucker, Eddie. What happened to him? He died 5 years ago. Heart attack. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. More silence. Just rain and the distant rumble of thunder moving away. What if this doesn't work? Eli asked. What if Darren takes the money and still calls the cops? What if Griff takes the clubhouse? What if everything falls apart? Then we deal with it. How? Creed looked at him. However we have to. It wasn't reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. But it was honest. They stood there until they were both soaked through, until the cold started to really bite. Then they went back inside to wait for Griff. Well, Griff and Sawyer arrived exactly 2 hours later. His truck pulled into the lot, a black Ford that looked like it could survive an apocalypse. He climbed out slow, took his time, making them wait. He looked the same, maybe a little older, more gray in his beard, but the same hard eyes, the same predator walk. He wore jeans and a leather jacket that had seen better days, boots that could kick through doors. Creed stood in the doorway watching him approach. Every muscle in his body went tight, fight-or-flight response firing on all cylinders. Years of hatred condensed into one moment. Griff stopped about 10 feet away, looked at the clubhouse, then at Creed. Been a while, Griff said. Not long enough. That's fair? They stared at each other. Two men who'd once been brothers, who'd bled together, fought together, until they couldn't anymore. You got the money? Creed asked. Griff patted his jacket. Right here. You got the deed? Inside. Then let's do this. Creed didn't move. Why'd you agree? What? Why'd you agree to help? After everything? After what I said? Why? Griff was quiet for a moment. Rain dripped off his beard. Because Bones said it was for a kid. And because whatever else I am, I'm not the kind of man who lets kids suffer. Could have fooled me. That's not fair, isn't it? Creed's voice went cold. Your mistake put my brother in a facility. You think I forgot that? I think about it every day. Good. You should. Griff's jaw tightened. I know you hate me. I know what I did, but this isn't about us. It's about that kid in there who needs help. So we can stand here and trade insults, or we can do the deal and I can leave. He was right. Creed hated that he was right. Come on, Creed said, turning back to the clubhouse. They walked inside together. The temperature in the room dropped when Griff entered. Every man there had history with him. None of it good. Griff's eyes swept the space, taking inventory, then landed on Eli sitting at the table. That him? Griff asked. Yeah. Griff studied Eli for a long moment, saw the bruises, the wariness, the The way the kid held himself like he expected violence. How old are you, Kit? Griff asked. 12, Eli answered quietly. And your foster father did that to your face? Eli nodded. Something flickered across Griff's expression. Anger. Understanding. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Set it on the table. 10,000. Unmarked bills. Non-sequential. He looked at Creed. The deed. Bones slid the paperwork across. It's all there, signed and notarized. Griff picked it up, scanned it, nodded. Terms are simple. You got 6 months to pay me back with 10% interest. That's 11,000 total. Miss the deadline, the clubhouse is mine. We'll have it, Creed said. You better. Griff folded the deed and tucked it in his jacket. Because I will take it. Don't doubt that. I don't. They stood in tense silence. The deal was done, but neither man moved. Your brother? Griff said finally. How's he doing? Don't. Creed's voice turned lethal. Don't ask about him. You lost that right. I know, but I'm asking anyway. He's alive, that's all you need to know. Griff nodded slowly. Tell him, I'm not telling him anything from you. Fair enough. Griff turned to leave, made it 3 steps before Eli spoke. Thank you. Griff stopped, looked back. Don't thank me, kid. This isn't charity, it's business. Still, thank you. Something in Griff's expression softened, just for a second. Then the armor went back up. Take care of yourself. He walked out into rain that had turned to drizzle, got in his truck, drove away. The envelope sat on the table between them. $10,000, the price of one kid's freedom. Well, Hax said eventually, that went better than expected. Did it? Bones asked. Because we just bet everything on paying back a man who has every reason to want us to fail. We'll figure it out. How? We're barely making rent as it is. We'll figure it out, Creed repeated. He grabbed the envelope. Right now we focus on Eli. Get him safe, legal. Then we worry about the rest. It was a plan, barely, built on hope and desperation and the thin thread of trust that brothers wouldn't let each other fall. But it was all they had. They met Darren the next morning in the parking lot of a closed diner on the edge of town. Neutral ground, public enough to prevent violence, empty enough to avoid witnesses. Creed brought the money. Bones and Trigger came as backup. Eli stayed at the clubhouse with Viper and Hack. Darren's car pulled in right on time. He got out wearing a smile that made Creed's skin crawl. You got my money? Darren asked. Creed held up the envelope. You got the papers? Darren pulled documents from his jacket. Transfer forms. Already signed by me. You get a social worker to sign off, kid's officially yours. How do I know these are real? Same way I know that's real money. Trust. They stared at each other. 2 men who trusted nothing about each other but needed this transaction to work. Count it, Creed said, tossing the envelope. Darren caught it, opened it, started counting bills. His fingers moved quick and practiced. When he finished, he smiled wider. Pleasure doing business with you. He handed over the papers. Creed scanned them. They looked legitimate. Official state forms, Darren's signature at the bottom. We're done here, Creed said. Not quite. Darren's smile went sharp. There's one more thing. Creed's instinct screamed. What thing? Just wanted you to know. I'm moving. Out of state. Colorado, maybe. Somewhere fresh. Somewhere I can start over with foster placements. The words landed like a punch. You're going to do this to another kid, Bones said. I'm going to make a living. What I do is legal, state approved, and there's nothing you can do about it. Creed's vision tunneled. His hands curled into fists. Every nerve in his body screamed to put Darren on the ground, to make him hurt the way Eli hurt. But Trigger's hand landed on his shoulder, holding him back. Not worth it, Trigger said quietly. He's gonna... I know, but not here. Not now. Darren backed toward his car, still smiling. Thanks for the cash. And hey, good luck with the kid. You're gonna need it. He got in his car and drove away. Creed stood in that parking lot shaking with rage, with frustration, with the helpless fury of knowing that justice didn't exist. That men like Darren walked free while kids like Eli paid the price. We should follow him, Bones said. Find out where he's going. And then what? I don't know. Something. We can't. We got the papers. We got Eli. Going after Darren now just risks everything. So he just wins? Yeah, he wins. The words tasted like ash. They drove back to the clubhouse in silence. Creed's hands were so tight on the handlebars they cramped. But he didn't ease up. Needed the pain to focus. To stop thinking about Darren's smile. When they arrived, Eli was waiting on the porch. Did it work? He asked. Creed held up the papers. You're free. Eli's face went through several emotions. Relief, disbelief. Something that might have been joy. Then fear. What's wrong? Creed asked. He's really going to let me go? Just like that? He doesn't have a choice. These are legal transfer forms. Once we get a social worker to sign off, you're officially removed from his custody. But what if? No what ifs. Otto Creed crouched down to Eli's eye level. It's done. You're never going back there. Eli nodded, but the fear didn't leave his eyes, because he knew the same thing Creed knew. That men like Darren didn't lose gracefully. That this felt too easy. That somewhere in the shadows, something darker was waiting. Mamate. The call came 3 days later. Creed was in the garage working on his bike when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Yeah? Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice he recognized but couldn't place. You took something from me. Creed's blood went cold. Who is this? You know who, and you know what. Then it clicked. The voice from Darren's house. Angry, drunk. A memory Eli had mentioned. Someone Darren owed money to. How'd you get this number? Darren gave it to me before he left. Said if I had problems with my investment, I should talk to you. What investment? The voice laughed, low and cruel. The boy. My $10,000 that's supposed to come back to me plus interest. Money Darren owed me. Money he was going to pay using that foster kid's checks. But now the kid's gone, so that's my money gone. Understanding crashed over Creed like ice water. Darren hadn't just been collecting state checks. He'd been using them as collateral, had borrowed money from someone, promised to pay it back using Eli as a revenue stream. That's not my problem, Creed said. It is now, because Darren skipped town. Can't find him, can't collect, so that debt transfers. To you. That's not how this works. It is in my world. You got 48 hours to come up with $10,000, or things get ugly. Who the hell are you? Name's Marcus Pike, Darren's brother, and I don't lose money. The line went dead. Creed stood there, phone in hand, world tilting. They just paid $10,000 to get Eli free. Now they owed another $10,000 to someone who had no interest in negotiations. And they had 6 months to pay Griff back $11,000, $31,000 total. Money they didn't have, couldn't get. Not legally. He walked inside, found the brothers gathered around the table, told them everything. When he finished, the silence was absolute. We're buried, Hack said finally. Completely, Viper agreed. Bones looked at Creed. What do we do? Creed stared at the table, at the envelope that had held their salvation that now felt like their death sentence. I don't know, he admitted. And for the first time since this whole thing started, he truly didn't. They'd saved Eli, but in doing so they'd destroyed themselves. The clubhouse they'd bet, the money they didn't have, the enemies they'd made. It was all coming due, and there was no way out. The rain came back that night with a vengeance. Not the steady kind, the violent kind that hammered roofs and turned gravel lots into muddy rivers. Lightning split the sky in jagged white scars while thunder shook windows in their frames. Inside the clubhouse, 5 men sat around a table covered in bills they couldn't pay and debts they couldn't escape. Eli slept upstairs, unaware that the price of his freedom was about to consume everything. Creed stared at the numbers Hack had written out. The math was brutal, simple, undeniable. 10,000 to Marcus Pike in 48 hours, 11,000 to Griff in 6 months. Current club funds, $800. We're dead, Viper said flatly. Might as well admit it. We're not dead, Bones countered, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what are we? Hack gestured at the numbers. Because from where I'm sitting, we just committed financial suicide for a kid we barely know. The words hung there. Cruel. True. Nobody wanted to acknowledge them. Creed's phone sat on the table between them. Marcus Pike's threat still fresh. 48 hours. Things get ugly. The promise of violence wrapped in deadline. We could run, Trigger suggested. Pack up. Take Eli. Disappear. Where, see? Bones asked. How far you think we get on $800? How long before Marcus or Griff or the whole damn system catches up? So we just surrender? I'm saying running isn't a plan. Neither is sitting here waiting to get buried. Creed stood abruptly, chair scraping concrete. He walked to the window and stared out at rain turning the world liquid and black. His reflection stared back, hollow-eyed, exhausted, carrying weight that kept multiplying. We need to talk to Marcus, he said. Talk to him. Viper's laugh came out sharp. And say what? Pretty please give us more time? Men like that don't negotiate. Everyone negotiates. Question is what we got to offer. We got nothing. Then we find something. Bones joined him at the window, spoke low enough the others couldn't hear. You're thinking about doing a job. It wasn't a question. Creed didn't answer. That's a line we don't cross anymore, Bones continued. We went straight, built something clean. You do this. We lose that. Maybe forever. We're going to lose it anyway if we can't pay. So we choose how we lose, on our feet or on our knees. Creed looked at him. You rather lose the clubhouse than compromise? I'd rather find a third option. There isn't one. There's always one. We just haven't found it yet. Lightning illuminated the parking lot in stark white. For a second, everything was visible, every puddle, every shadow, every drop of rain suspended in air. Then darkness crashed back. I'm going to see Marcus, Creed said. Tomorrow, face to face. That's a bad idea. Probably, but I'm out of good ones. He turned back to the table. Rest of you, start thinking about how we generate cash fast, legal or otherwise. I want options on this table by tomorrow night. And if Marcus doesn't want to talk, Hack asked, then we deal with that when it happens. Nobody looked satisfied, but nobody had better suggestions. They dispersed into the night, Viper and Hack to their rooms upstairs, Trigger to the garage to work on his bike the way he did when thinking got too heavy. Bones lingered. You know this is going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah. You ready for that? No, but I don't have a choice. We always got choices. Do we? Creed gestured at the empty room. Because from where I'm standing, every choice we made to save that kid just dug us deeper, and now we're so far down, I can't see daylight anymore. Maybe that's the point. What? Maybe we're not supposed to see daylight yet. Maybe we're supposed to be down here, in the dark, because that's where kids like Eli live, and somebody's got to be down there with them. The words settled between them like a revelation neither wanted to examine too closely. Bones headed for the stairs. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hell. But Creed didn't sleep, just sat in the dark listening to rain hammer the roof and thinking about Eddie Malone, the trucker who'd saved him, who'd stopped when everyone else drove past. Eddie had died broke, alone. No family at his funeral except Creed. That was the reward for caring. So why was he doing this? Why was he willing to destroy everything for a kid he'd known less than a week? He didn't have an answer, just the certainty that walking away wasn't an option his conscience would survive. Outside, lightning painted this world in shades of violence, and somewhere in the dark, Marcus Pike was waiting. Dead. Morning came gray and cold. The storm had passed, but left behind low clouds and temperatures that made breath visible. Creed rode alone to the address Hack had found, a salvage yard on the industrial edge of town where Marcus Pike apparently ran his business. The sign read Pike Brothers Salvage in faded letters. Chain link fence, guard dogs, rows of crushed cars and stripped parts, the kind of place where things came to die. Creed pulled through the open gate, killed his engine. The silence felt predatory. A man emerged from a corrugated metal building, tall, lean, moving with the kind of casual confidence that came from owning everything in sight. He wore coveralls and work boots, but his eyes were cold and calculating. Marcus Pike. You the biker? Marcus called out. Yeah. Took balls coming here. Or stupidity. Marcus laughed. Same thing usually. He gestured toward the building. Come on, let's talk inside. Creed followed him into an office that smelled like motor oil and cigarettes. Concrete floor. Metal desk. Calendar from 3 years ago still hanging on the wall. Marcus sat behind the desk. Didn't offer Creed a chair. You got my money? Marcus asked. Not yet. Then why you here? To negotiate terms. Marcus leaned back. Terms. That's cute. Here's the terms. You give me $10,000 in, he checked his watch, 39 hours. Or I start taking payment in other ways. What other ways? Whatever I can get. Bikes, parts, maybe that clubhouse I hear you just put up as collateral. Griff and I go way back. Sure, he'd sell me the deed for the right price. Creed's jaw tightened. The debt was Darren's, not mine. Darren made it yours when he left town. Said you took his revenue stream. His exact words, you stole his investment. I saved a kid from getting beaten. Don't care about the backstory. Care about my money. They stared at each other across the desk. Two predators measuring territories, looking for weakness. What if I can't get it? Creed asked. Then you got a problem. What kind of problem? Marcus's smile went cold. The kind that ends with broken things, people, property. Whatever makes the point that debts get paid. You threatening me? Promising you. The same words Creed had said to Darren, now coming back like karma. Give me a week, Creed said. I can get the money. Just need time. No. Why not? Week won't make a difference to you. It's about principle. Your brother took something from me. Now you gotta pay. Fast. Makes a statement. Darren's not my brother. Might as well be. You took his problem. Makes it yours. Creed's hands curled into fists. So there's no negotiation. Not on timeline, but... Marcus paused. There might be other arrangements. Like what? Like work. I got jobs that need doing. Dangerous jobs. The kind your club used to be good at. Understanding dawned cold and dark. You want me to do something illegal. I want you to do something profitable for both of us. What kind of job? Marcus pulled a folder from his desk, slid it across. Competitor of mine, guy named Tommy Voss, runs a chop shop 2 towns over, been undercutting my prices, stealing my clients, making me lose money. And I want him encouraged to retire, close up shop, move on. Creed stared at the folder without opening it. You want me to threaten him. I want you to persuade him, however that needs to happen. And if I do this, you forgive the debt? Half. You do this, you owe me 5,000 instead of 10. Much more manageable. The offer hung there, tempting, poisonous. What's to stop Voss from calling the cops? Creed asked. He won't. He's got his own legal problems. Last thing he wants is police attention. So you want me to do your dirty work? I want us to help each other. You need money. I need a problem solved. Simple transaction. Spasishimam itsuon. Creed picked up the folder, opened it. Inside were photographs, address, details about Tommy Voss's operation, guard schedules, weak points. This was planned, calculated. Marcus had known exactly what he'd asked for before Creed even showed up. What's the timeline? Creed asked. 3 days. You persuade Voss to close down, I cut your debt in half. And if I refuse, Marcus's expression went flat. Then I collect my 10,000 the hard way. And trust me, you don't want that. Creed stood slowly, took the folder. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Clock's ticking. Creed walked back to his bike, mounted it, felt the weight of the folder in his jacket like an anchor. He'd come looking for a way out, found a way deeper instead. He rode back to the clubhouse through cold gray morning, mind spinning, trying to find angles that didn't exist. Do the job, save the club, cross a line they'd promised never to cross again, refuse, lose everything, watch Marcus take it all piece by piece, no good options, just varying degrees of bad. The brothers were waiting when he arrived, gathered around the table like a jury waiting to deliver verdict. Creed dropped the folder on the table. Marcus made an offer. They passed it around. Reading, understanding dawning in hard eyes. Hell no, Bones said immediately. It cuts the debt in half, Creed pointed out, by making us criminals again. We've been criminals before. That was before! Bones slammed his hand on the table. Before we tried to go straight. Before we built something legitimate. You do this, we throw all that away. We're going to lose it anyway if we can't pay. So we find another way. There is no other way. Creed's voice rose. You think I want this? You think I want to go back to that life? But we're out of choices. We got one choice. Trigger spoke up quiet and steady. We tell Marcus to go to hell. We lose the clubhouse. We scatter. We survive. And Eli? Creed asked. Silence. Where does Eli go? Creed pressed. Back into the system? Back to another foster home where maybe he gets lucky or maybe he gets another Darren Pike. You want that? We can't save everyone, Hack said. No, but we can save him. At what cost, Bones demanded. Our souls, our principles, everything we tried to build? Yes, Creed shouted. Yes, whatever it takes. Because he's 12 years old and he's got nobody else. So if we have to burn everything down to keep him safe, then that's what we do. The words echoed in the space between them. Raw, desperate, true. Viper spoke carefully. You're not thinking straight. You're emotional. Making decisions based on guilt and trauma instead of logic. Maybe, Creed's voice dropped. Or maybe I'm the only one seeing clear. That kid upstairs trusts us, believes we're going to protect him. And if we fail him now, we're no better than everyone else who looked away. So we become criminals to prove we're heroes? Bones asked. That math doesn't work. It's not about math. It's about keeping a promise. What promise? We never promised him anything. We promised when we decided he was worth fighting for, when we paid Darren, when we brought him here. Every choice we made was a promise, and I'm not breaking it. They sat in heavy silence. Outside, wind rattled the windows. The world continued its indifferent rotation while 5 men tried to decide what they were willing to sacrifice. Finally, Trigger spoke. What's the job exactly? Creed opened the folder. Voss runs a chop shop. Marcus wants him gone. Intimidated enough to close up and leave. How much intimidation are we talking? Whatever it takes. That could mean violence. Yeah. Could mean seriously hurting someone. Yeah. More silence. I'll do it, Creed said. Alone. Keep the rest of you clean. If it goes bad, it's on me. That's not how we work, Bones said. It is now. No. Bones stood. We're brothers. We ride together or not at all. You do this, we all do this. Share the weight. Share the consequences. Bones, I said no. You don't get to martyr yourself. Not on my watch. Locked eyes. Years of brotherhood compressed into one moment. I can't ask you to do this, Creed said. You're not asking. I'm choosing. One by one, the others nodded. Trigger, Hack, Viper, all making the same choice. To follow Creed into darkness because that's what brothers did. 3 days, Creed said. We plan it right. Do it clean. Get out. And then, Hack asked, then we pay Griff. We keep the clubhouse. We keep Eli safe. And we live with what we did. Yeah, we live with it. The decision settled over them like snow. Cold, irreversible, beautiful and terrible. Thunder rumbled distant. Another storm building. They spent the next day planning, studying Tommy Voss's operation, guard schedules, entry points, how to maximize intimidation while minimizing actual violence. The goal was fear. Make Voss understand that staying in business costs more than leaving. Eli noticed the change, the way conversations stopped when he entered rooms, the tension that crackled between the brothers like electricity. That evening, he cornered Creed in the garage. What's wrong? Eli asked. Nothing. Don't lie to me. I've been lied to my whole life. I know what it looks like. Creed set down the wrench he'd been holding, looked at the kid. We got some business to handle. Club stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. Is it because of me? What? The business. Is it because of the money you spent? The debts? Creed wanted to lie. to protect Eli from guilt he didn't deserve, but those eyes stared at him with too much understanding, with the knowledge that came from surviving bad situations by reading truth in adult faces. Yeah, Creed admitted. It's connected. Eli's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I never wanted you to stop. Creed moved to crouch in front of him. This isn't your fault. You didn't create the situation. We chose to help, knowing the cost. And we'd make the same choice again. But now you have to do something bad. How'd you? I'm not stupid. I see how you're all acting, like you're preparing for war. Eli's voice shook. I should just leave. Go back into the system. Let you... No. But... No. Creed's voice went hard. You're not going anywhere. Whatever we have to do, we do it. And you stay here, safe. That's not up for debate. Eli stared at him. Why do you care this much? Because someone has to. That's not an answer. Creed was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. You remind me of my brother, he said finally, before everything went wrong, before the drugs, before the brain damage. He had that same look in his eyes, like the world was too big and too cruel and he couldn't figure out where he fit. What happened to him? He trusted the wrong person, got hurt, and I wasn't there to stop it. That's why you stopped. On the highway, because you see him in me. Maybe, or maybe I see myself, doesn't really matter. Point is, you're here, you're ours now, and we protect our own. Eli nodded slowly. Even if it destroys you. Even then, the words hung there, a promise and a threat. A commitment that bordered on obsession. That night they loaded up. 3 bikes, 3 riders, Creed, Bones, and Trigger. The others stayed back to watch Eli and maintain deniability. They rode through dark back roads, no headlights once they got close. Tommy Voss's chop shop sat isolated on 10 acres of industrial wasteland. Perfect for illegal operations. Also perfect for what they were about to do. They parked a quarter-mile out, walked the rest. Dark clothing, faces covered, moving through shadows like the ghosts they'd once been. The shop was a converted warehouse. 2 guards out front, smoking, talking, unaware. Creed signaled. They split up. Bones circled left, Trigger right. Creed went straight. He got within 20 feet before one guard noticed movement, hand reaching for radio. Creed moved fast. Combat training kicking in, had the guard on the ground in seconds. Hand over mouth, other arm around throat, applying pressure until the man went limp. Not dead, unconscious. Bones and Trigger took the second guard with similar efficiency. Within 90 seconds, both men were zip-tied and hidden behind a dumpster. The front door was locked, but Bones had it open in under a minute. They moved inside. Dark hallway. Smell of motor oil and welding equipment. Sound of voices deeper in. 3 more men, working late on a Mercedes. Stripping VIN numbers, classic chop shop operation. Creed stepped into the workspace. Tommy Voss. The men spun. One reached for a gun on the workbench. Trigger had his own gun out faster. Don't, Trigger said quietly. The man froze. Which one of you is Voss? Creed asked. A stocky man with grease-stained hands stepped forward. Who's asking? Doesn't matter. What matters is you're done. Close the shop. Liquidate. Be gone in 48 hours. Voss laughed. Or what? Voss, goth. Creed crossed the space fast, had Voss by the throat and slammed against the Mercedes. Or things get ugly. For you. Your men. Your family. You threatening my family? Voss's eyes went wild. I'm promising if you don't walk away, everyone you care about becomes fair game. You don't know who you're messing with. And you don't know who sent us. Creed leaned in close. But here's a hint. Marcus Pike says hello. Recognition and fear flashed across Voss's face. Marcus? That son of a... 48 hours, Creed interrupted. Close up. Disappear. Or we come back. And next time we're not talking. He released Voss. Let him drop. The other men stood frozen, smart enough to know they were outmatched. Bones grabbed an acetylene torch, lit it, held the flame close to the Mercedes. Be a shame if all this inventory got damaged. You're insane. Voss gasped. Probably. Creed turned to leave. 48 hours. They walked out. Fast, but controlled. By the time they reached the bikes, adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by the weight of what they'd done. They rode back in silence. No celebration, no relief. Just the sick feeling of having crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. They arrived back at the clubhouse after midnight. The lights were still on. Strange. Usually everyone was asleep by now. Creed walked in to find Hack pacing, Viper sitting pale-faced at the table, and a woman he'd never seen before standing in the middle of the room. Mid-40s, professional clothes, tired eyes, badge on her belt, social worker. "What's going on?" Creed asked. The woman turned. "You Creed Mercer?" "Yeah. I'm Lisa Winters, Child Protective Services." She held up documentation. "I'm here about Eli Grayson." Creed's blood went cold. "What about him?" "We received a call, anonymous tip, claiming a minor is being held here against his will, without proper custody arrangements or legal authorization. That's not, we have transfer papers, forged according to our records. Darren Pike never filed official termination of placement, which means Eli's still legally under his custody, which means you're currently in violation of multiple laws. Darren sold him to us. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Creed stared at her, at the trap closing around them. "He's upstairs, asleep. I need to see him, and I need to take him back into protective custody while this gets sorted out." "No?" The word came out flat. Final. "Mr. Mercer, I understand you're emotionally invested, but you don't understand anything. That kid's been beaten, starved, treated like property, and you're going to put him back in the system that failed him?" "The system didn't fail him. One placement did. There are procedures that let him get beat for 3 years without anyone noticing." Lisa's expression tightened. "I know you're angry, but I have a legal obligation. Eli needs to come with me tonight. If what you're saying is true, it'll all come out in the investigation. And if it doesn't, if Darren lies his way through it like he has for years, then what? Then the courts decide." "The courts?" Creed laughed bitterly. "The same courts that placed him there to begin with." Bones put a hand on his shoulder. "Let it go." "No." "Creed, I said no." He looked at Lisa. "You want Eli? You'll have to go through me." Lisa sighed, pulled out her phone. "Then I'll have to call the police." "Do it." The room went silent. Lisa dialed, spoke quietly, hung up. "They'll be here in 10 minutes. Creed nodded, turned to Hack. "Wake Eli. Tell him what's happening." "Creed," Bones started. "Do it." Hack went upstairs, came back down with Eli. The kid looked scared, confused, still wearing the oversized hoodie and sweatpants that had become his uniform. "What's going on?" Eli asked. Lisa spoke gently. "Eli, I'm Lisa. I'm a social worker. I need you to come with me for a little while." "Why?" "Because there are some legal issues we need to sort out. I don't want to go." "I understand, but it's temporary, just until we can verify everything." "Verify what? That Darren beat me? That these men saved me?" Eli's voice rose. "How much verification do you need?" "It's not that simple." "It is. You just don't want to see it." Tears streamed down Eli's face. "Nobody ever wants to see it." Lisa moved toward him. Eli backed away, looked at Creed. "Don't let them take me, please." The words hit like bullets. Creed's hands curled into fists. Every instinct screamed to grab Eli and run, to fight, to do whatever it took. But Bones's hand on his shoulder tightened, a warning, a reminder. Violence now meant losing forever. "It's going to be okay," Creed said. The lie tasted like ash. "No, it's not. You know it's not." Sirens approached, growing louder. The cops arrived. 2 officers, professional, detached. They listened to Lisa's explanation, looked at the bikers with suspicion that said they'd already made their judgments. "Eli Grayson needs to come with us," one officer said. "I'm not going," Eli said. "Son, this isn't optional. I'm not your son." Eli's voice broke. "And I'm not going." The officer moved forward. Eli bolted, tried to run for the stairs. The officer caught him. Eli screamed, fought, kicked, every survival instinct firing. Creed stepped forward. The second officer's hand went to his gun. "Don't!" the officer warned. Bones and Trigger grabbed Creed, held him back while Eli was dragged toward the door. Still screaming, still fighting. "Creed!" Eli's voice tore through the air. "Please!" The door closed. Sirens faded into distance. The clubhouse fell silent except for Creed's ragged breathing. They'd lost him. After everything. After every sacrifice. Every choice. Every line crossed. They'd lost him. Creed stood in the middle of that room feeling like the floor had opened beneath him. Like everything solid had turned to smoke. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Saw the cops at your place." Marcus Pike's voice. "That's unfortunate. Means you failed to secure your investment, which means our deal's off. I want my full 10,000 tomorrow, or I'm taking everything." The line went dead. Creed's phone slipped from his hand, clattered on the floor. Bones moved to him. What was that? Creed couldn't speak. Couldn't process. Everything was collapsing. The job they'd done meant nothing now. Eli was gone. Marcus wanted full payment. Griff held the deed. The cops were investigating. It was over. All of it. "Creed." Bones shook him. "What did Marcus say?" "He wants full payment. Tomorrow." "We can't." "I know." "So what do we do?" "What to do?" Creed looked at him. At the brothers gathered around. At the clubhouse that had been their home for a decade. At everything they were about to lose. "I don't know," he whispered. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, the truth of that statement crushed him completely. They'd tried to save one kid, and in doing so, they'd destroyed themselves. 3 hours later, Creed sat alone in the garage, cigarette burning between his fingers, staring at nothing. The door opened. Hack came in. "Got something," Hack said. "Might be nothing, but—" "What?" Hack pulled out his laptop, opened files. Been digging into Eli's background. His mother. The disappearance 12 years ago. Why? Because something didn't add up. Darren becoming Eli's guardian right after the mother vanished? That's convenient. Too convenient. Get to the point. Hack turned the laptop. Showed him a police report from 12 years ago. Missing person case. Sarah Grayson, Eli's mother, last seen leaving a bar with an unknown man. Then another document, a witness statement, buried in the file, never followed up on. The witness described the unknown man. Tattoos on his forearms, scar across his left eyebrow, drove a black pickup. Creed's blood turned to ice. "That's Marcus Pike," Hack said quietly. "I cross-referenced. It's him." "You're saying—" "I'm saying Sarah Grayson disappeared 12 years ago after leaving with Marcus Pike. And somehow Darren Pike, Marcus's brother, ended up with custody of her son and has been collecting state checks ever since. The pieces fell together with horrifying clarity. They killed her," Creed said. "Can't prove it, but yeah. That's what I think. And I think Eli was the prize. A revenue stream. $900 a month for as long as they could keep him in the system. Ski. Astas. Jesus Christ. Gets worse." Hack pulled up more files. Found Darren's sealed juvenile record. Took some doing, but I cracked it. Multiple complaints of abuse, one charge of attempted murder when he was 16, against a foster kid in his parents' care. The system sealed it when he turned 18. And still gave him custody? Different states, different databases. They never connected the dots. Creed's hands shook. So Eli's entire life, his mother's death, everything was just about money. About creating a renewable resource they could exploit. Yeah, the rage that hit Creed was white hot, all-consuming. He stood so fast the chair toppled backward. "We're gonna kill them," he said quietly. "Creed, both of them. Marcus and Darren. We find them. We end them." "That's not—" "They killed a woman. They tortured a child for years, for money." Creed's voice rose to a roar. "So yes, we're killing them, because that's what they deserve." "And we go to prison," Hack said. "For life, and Eli ends up alone anyway. Is that what you want?" The truth of it cut through rage like ice water. Creed sank back down, head in hands. "What do we do?" "We take this to the cops, the real evidence. Make them investigate." "They won't care. One missing woman from 12 years ago? One abused kid among thousands? They'll bury it like they bury everything. Maybe, but it's our only shot. Creed stared at the floor. At the oil stains and tire marks and years of history ground into concrete, they'd crossed every line, sacrificed everything, and still come up empty. The game was rigged from the start. Tomorrow, he said finally, tomorrow we give this evidence to the cops. We force them to look. And then what? Creed met his eyes. Then we do whatever we have to do, legal or otherwise, to get Eli back and to make Marcus and Darren pay. Even if it costs everything? Especially then. Outside, the first drops of another storm began to fall. Thunder rolled across mountains like a promise of violence. And in the darkness, Creed Mercer made a decision that would change everything. He was done playing by rules that only protected monsters. It was time to become one himself. Dawn broke gray and merciless over Black Hollow. Creed hadn't slept. Just sat in the garage staring at Hack's laptop screen until the words blurred together. Sarah Grayson, missing, presumed dead. The report was clinical, detached, like a woman's life reduced to file numbers and witness statements that led nowhere. But now they knew where it led. To Marcus Pike, to his brother Darren, to 12 years of systematic exploitation built on a murdered woman's grave. The garage door opened. Bones stood silhouetted against pale morning light. "You still planning to take this to the cops?" Bones asked. "Yeah." "You know they won't move on it. 12-year-old cold case. No body, no hard evidence. Just speculation from bikers with criminal records." "So what's your suggestion?" Bones walked in, closed the door behind him. "We handle it ourselves." Creed looked up. "I thought you were against that." "I was. Before I knew what they did. Before I understood." Bones's voice went cold. "They killed a woman, sold her kid, built an empire on suffering. Men like that don't get to walk away." "We do this. There's no coming back." "I know. Bones, I'm done talking." Bones pulled out his phone. "Trigger and Viper are in. Hack too. We're all in. Question is, what's the plan?" Creed stood slowly. Every muscle ached from tension and lack of sleep. "First we get Eli. Then we deal with the Pikes." "How we getting Eli?" "He's in state custody." "I don't know yet, but we're getting him." "And if we can't?" Creed's eyes went flat. "Then we burn it all down until they give him back." The words hung in the air like a declaration of war. Outside, engines roared to life, the brothers mounting up without being asked, ready to ride into whatever hell was coming. They rolled out as the sun climbed higher. 5 Harleys cutting through morning cold, heading toward the county social services building where Eli was being held pending investigation. The building was bureaucratic gray, 3 stories. Security at the front desk, cameras in every corner. The kind of place designed to keep people in or out depending on which side of the paperwork you stood. They parked across the street. Creed killed his engine and stared at the building. Somewhere inside, Eli was probably scared, confused, wondering why nobody had come for him yet. "We can't just storm in there," Trigger said. "I know." "So what's the play?" Before Creed could answer, his phone rang. Lisa Winters, the social worker from last night. He answered. "Yeah. Mr. Mercer, I need you to come to my office, now." "Why?" "Because Eli's asking for you, and because we need to talk." Something in her voice made Creed's instincts flare. "Talk about what?" "Not over the phone. Get here, soon as you can." She hung up. Creed looked at the brothers. "She wants to meet." "That's a trap," Viper said immediately. "Probably. So you're going anyway?" "Yeah." "Then we're coming with you." "No, stay here. Watch the building. If this goes sideways, I need you outside." Bones grabbed his arm. "You walk in there alone, they could arrest you, hold you on kidnapping charges, use you as leverage. Let them try to calm." "Creed, I said no." He pulled free. "Eli asked for me. I'm not making him wait." He crossed the street before they could argue further, pushed through glass doors into air conditioning and fluorescent lights. The receptionist barely looked up. "I'm here to see Lisa Winters," Creed said. "3rd floor, room 312. He took the stairs. Each step felt like walking toward a cliff, but he kept moving. Down a hallway that smelled like stale coffee and desperation. past doors that hid other people's tragedies. Room 312. He knocked. Come in. Lisa sat behind a desk covered in files. She looked exhausted, like she'd been up all night too. Sit, she said. Creed sat. Where's Eli? Down the hall, with a counselor. He's not doing well. You expect him to be doing well? No, but his reaction is extreme. He's refusing to eat, won't speak to anyone except to ask for you. And she paused. He's showing signs of severe trauma, more than what we typically see even in difficult placements. That's what happens when you're beaten for 3 years. Lisa's expression tightened. We're investigating Darren Pike, but there are problems. What problems? He's gone. Disappeared. Left no forwarding address, no contact information. It's like he knew we were coming. Because he did. Someone tipped him off. Who? His brother, Marcus Pike. Lisa's eyes narrowed. You have proof of that? Working on it. She pulled a file from her desk, opened it. I've been looking into your claims. About Darren. About the other foster placements. You're right, there's a pattern, but it's buried, hidden across different states and databases. Someone went to a lot of trouble to keep it quiet. Someone with connections. Yeah. Lisa studied him. Why are you doing this? Really? Most people don't fight this hard for a kid they barely know. Because nobody fought for me when I needed it. That's not good enough. There's something else. Something you're not telling me. Creed hesitated, measured how much to reveal. We think Marcus and Darren Pike killed Eli's mother 12 years ago, made it look like she disappeared. Then Darren took custody of Eli to collect state payments. Lisa went pale. That's a serious accusation. I got evidence, police reports, witness statements, timeline that connects Marcus to Sarah Grayson's disappearance. Why haven't you gone to the police? Because the police don't listen to bikers with records. But maybe they'll listen to you. He pulled out his phone, sent her the files Hack had compiled, watched her face change as she read. Horror, disbelief, understanding. Oh my God, she whispered. Yeah. If this is true, if they really... She couldn't finish. Eli's in danger, real danger. Long as Marcus thinks the kid might remember something or say something that connects them to Sarah's death. But Eli was a baby when she disappeared. He can't remember. Does Marcus know that? Or does he just see a loose end that needs tying up? Lisa stared at the files on her screen. Her hands shook slightly. What do you want me to do? Get Eli out of here. Protective custody. Somewhere Marcus can't reach him. I can't just... There are procedures. Fuck procedures. That kid's life is at stake. Lisa flinched but didn't back down. If I bypass protocol, I lose my job, and then I can't help anyone. If you follow protocol, Eli dies. They locked eyes across the desk. Two people trying to do right in a system designed to prevent it. I need 48 hours, Lisa said finally, to process the evidence, to get authorization for protective placement. Can you give me that? Do I have a choice? No. Creed stood. 48 hours. Then I'm taking him, with or without your permission. That's kidnapping. Call it whatever you want, but I'm not leaving him vulnerable. He turned to leave. Mr. Mercer. He stopped. He really is lucky to have someone fight this hard. Most kids in the system never get that. He's not lucky, he's owed. There's a difference. Creed walked out before she could respond. Back down the hallway. Past doors and tragedies. His mind already calculating next steps. How to keep Eli safe while they dismantled the Pike brothers' empire. He was halfway to the stairs when a door opened. Eli stood in the doorway, pale, thin, wearing clothes the state had given him that fit even worse than the ones from the clubhouse. Their eyes met. Eli ran, crossed the distance in seconds, and slammed into Creed hard enough to hurt, arms wrapping around him, face buried in Creed's chest, whole body shaking. I thought you weren't coming, Eli's voice muffled and broken. I thought you left me. Creed's hands came up, one on Eli's back, one on his head, holding him together while the kid fell apart. Never, Creed said quietly. I'm never leaving you. They said I have to stay here, that you can't take me. I know. I don't want to stay. Please, I can't. His voice cracked. I can't do this again. I can't go back into the system. You're not going back. They said, I don't care what they said. You're not going back. A woman appeared in the doorway. The counselor, professional concern on her face. Eli, you need to come back inside. Eli's grip tightened. No. We have more to discuss. I said no. Eli's scream echoed in the hallway, raw, desperate. I'm not talking to you. I'm not going back in that room. I'm not... Eli. Creed's voice cut through the panic. Calm, steady. Look at me. Eli looked up, tears streaming, eyes wild with fear. I need you to trust me, Creed said. Can you do that? I'm trying. 2 days. That's all. 2 days in here where you're safe, where Marcus can't reach you. Then I'm coming back. And I'm taking you home. You promise? I promise. What if something happens? What if they move me or... Nothing's going to happen. I won't let it. How do you know? Creed crouched down to eye level. Because I'm going to end this. All of it. Marcus. Darren. The whole nightmare. But I need 2 days to do it right. Can you give me that? Eli stared at him, measuring, deciding if he could risk belief one more time. Okay. He whispered, finally. Creed stood, looked at the counselor. He stays in this building. No transfers, no moves, no exceptions. You understand? We don't take orders from... I don't care what you take. We don't take... I'm telling you how this works. He stays here, under guard, if you have to. But he doesn't leave this building until I come back. And if we don't agree? Creed's expression went cold. Then you better pray I don't find out who moved him. He turned back to Eli. 2 days, then we're done with all this. Eli nodded, let himself be led back into the counseling room. The door closed. Creed stood in that hallway breathing hard, trying to hold together the rage threatening to consume him. 2 days to end the Pike brothers. 2 days to burn down everything they'd built, starting now. The brothers were waiting when he got back outside. Well, Bones asked. We got 48 hours. Then they move him, or worse. So we work fast. Yeah. Creed mounted his bike. First stop, we find Darren. How? Guy's in the wind. Nobody disappears completely. He's got habits, patterns, places he feels safe. Creed looked at Hack. Can you track his credit cards? Phone? Already on it. Pinged his phone last night. Last location was Colorado border, heading west. He's running to Marcus. That'd be my guess. Then we follow. They rode out of Black Hollow heading west. 5 bikes cutting through mountain highways. Wind cold enough to sting exposed skin. The kind of cold that kept you alert, kept you focused. 3 hours later, they crossed into Colorado. Hack had narrowed Darren's location to a town called Silver Ridge. Population 3,000. The kind of place where strangers got noticed. They pulled into a gas station. Creed went inside while the others refueled. Showed the clerk a photo of Darren he'd pulled from Hack's research. You seen this man? The clerk, kid maybe 19, barely glanced at it. Don't know. Creed put a $100 bill on the counter. Look again. The kid looked. Recognition flickered. Maybe. When? Yesterday. Bought cigarettes and beer. Asked about motels. Which one? Told him Silver Pines, down on Route 6. Creed took back the 100, put down a 50 instead. You didn't see me. See who? Creed walked out. They rode to the Silver Pines Motel, 2-story dump with parking lot full of rust and broken dreams. Darren's car sat in front of room 114. They parked at the far end, dismounted. Creed checked his knife. Bones pulled out brass knuckles. This wasn't about talking anymore. We need him alive, Trigger reminded them. At least long enough to talk. I know. They approached the room. Creed knocked. Hard. Movement inside. Then silence. Creed knocked again. Open up, Darren. We know you're in there. More silence. Then the window beside the door exploded outward. Darren came through it. Glass and wood frame. Hit the parking lot running. Go! Creed shouted. They split up. Bones and Trigger cutting left. Viper and Hack right. Creed straight after Darren. Darren was fast. Faster than he looked. He made it across the parking lot and into an alley between buildings. Creed followed. Boots pounding pavement. Breath coming hard. Darren grabbed a trash can and hurled it backward. Creed dodged, but lost a step. Darren turned a corner. Creed turned after him and ran straight into a clothesline that took his feet out from under him. He hit the ground hard, vision sparking. Darren stood over him with a 2x4. "Should have stayed out of this," Darren gasped. He swung. Creed rolled. The wood exploded against concrete where his head had been. He kicked out, caught Darren's knee, heard something pop. Darren screamed, dropped the board. Creed was up, fist connecting with Darren's jaw. Once, twice, blood spraying. Darren went down. Creed grabbed him by the collar, dragged him back toward the motel. Darren struggled, weak, pathetic. Creed hit him again, felt cartilage break under his knuckles. By the time they reached the parking lot, Darren's face was a ruin, blood pouring from his nose and mouth, one eye already swelling shut. The brothers gathered around. "Inside," Creed said. They dragged Darren into room 114, kicked the door shut, threw him on the bed. Darren curled into a ball, whimpering. "Don't, please, I didn't—" "Shut up." Creed's voice was dead calm. "You talk when I say. Otherwise you bleed." Darren nodded frantically. "Sarah Grayson, 12 years ago. You remember her?" Darren's one good eye went wide. I don't know." Creed hit him. Open palm, hard enough to snap his head sideways. "Wrong answer." Okay, I remember. What happened to her?" "I don't know, I swear." "You're lying." Creed grabbed his broken nose, squeezed. Darren's scream filled the room. "Last chance." "What happened to Sarah?" "Marcus. It was Marcus. Darren could barely speak through pain and blood. "He met her at a bar. She was pretty. They fought. It went wrong. He killed her. I don't know, maybe." "He called me after, said we had a problem, said there was a kid, a baby, said we could make it work, turn it into opportunity." "So you took custody." State was going to put the kid in foster anyway. We just made sure it was with me. Made sure we got paid for it. For 12 years. It was just business." Creed's vision tunneled, red creeping in at the edges. "Business. You tortured a child for 12 years and called it business." "I didn't. You beat him, starved him, sold him to us like property. I needed the money. I owed Marcus. I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice." Creed's hands wrapped around Darren's throat. "You chose wrong." He squeezed. Darren's hands clawed at Creed's wrists, feet kicking, eyes bulging. "Creed, Bone's voice from somewhere far away. "Creed, stop." He didn't stop. "Creed!" Bones grabbed his shoulders. "We need him alive." "Why?" "Because dead men can't testify." The words broke through. Creed's hands loosened. Darren gasped, sucked in air, alive, barely. Creed stepped back, hands shaking, blood and sweat mixing. "Get him up." They hauled Darren to his feet, zip-tied his hands behind his back. Bones pulled out his phone, started recording. "Say it again," Bones said. "About Sarah, about Eli, everything." Darren looked at the camera, at the bikers surrounding him, at the blood dripping from his face. "Marcus killed Sarah Grayson," he said quietly. 12 years ago. I helped cover it up. We took her kid, used him to collect foster payments. Why? Money, that's all. Just money. And the abuse? Darren's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I never meant—" "Answer the question." "Yes. I hit him. When he didn't listen. When he made me angry. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything." I know. Please. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything about Marcus. Please don't kill me." Bones stopped recording, looked at Creed. "This enough?" "It's a start." Trigger pulled out his phone, dialed. "Yeah, we need police. Got a confession. Multiple felonies." He gave the address. They waited. Darren bleeding on the bed, the brothers standing guard. 5 minutes felt like hours. When the cops arrived, they found Darren gift-wrapped. Confession recorded. Evidence compiled. The officers looked confused. "Who are you?" one asked. "Concerned citizens," Creed said. "That recording's got everything you need. Murder, conspiracy, child abuse, all of it." "Where'd you get this?" "Does it matter?" The cop studied them, saw the blood on Creed's knuckles, the brass knuckles in Bones's pocket, made calculations. You need to come with us. For questioning. No. That's not optional. Yeah, it is. Creed gestured to Darren. You got your confession, you got your suspect. What you do with it is your business, but we're leaving. I can arrest you for assault. You could try. They stared at each other. The cop outnumbered 5-2. Smart enough to know how that math worked. Get out of here, the cop said finally. Before I change my mind. They walked out, mounted their bikes, rode away before anyone could reconsider. Once they were clear, Viper spoke over the wind. That's one down. Yeah. Creed's hands were still shaking on the handlebars. Now we get Marcus. But Marcus wouldn't be as easy. Marcus knew they were coming. They rode back to Black Hollow through darkness, stars cold and distant overhead. By the time they reached the clubhouse, it was after midnight. The place was dark, empty. Wrong. Creed killed his engine. Something's off. What? Bones asked. I don't know, just... His instincts screamed, be ready. They dismounted, moved toward the door. It was unlocked. Never unlocked. Creed pushed it open. The clubhouse had been destroyed. Furniture overturned, pool tables smashed, photographs torn from walls, every window broken, glass everywhere reflecting moonlight and jagged edges. And on the far wall, spray painted in red, you took mine, I take yours. Below it, pinned with a knife, was a photograph of Eli at the social services building. Today. Creed's blood turned to ice. He grabbed the photo. On the back, written in marker, 48 hours is too long. Come find me. Alone. Or the kid disappears like his mother. Below that, an address. Bones read over his shoulder. It's a trap. I know. You go there, you're dead. Probably. So we don't go. We have to. Why? Call the cops. Give them the address. Let them handle it. And if Marcus sees cops, what happens to Eli? Silence. He's got someone watching the social services building, Creed continued. Probably bought off a guard or administrator. One phone call and Eli's gone, just like Sarah. So what's the play? Creed stared at the address, at the photograph of Eli, at everything they'd fought for coming down to one moment. I go. Alone. Like he wants. That's suicide. Maybe. Creed, you got a better idea? He looked at them, at 4 men who'd become brothers, because I'm open to suggestions, but right now Marcus has all the leverage. He's got eyes on Eli, got the advantage of position, got nothing to lose while we're sitting here trying to figure out how to not die. So we even the odds, Hack said. How? We don't play his game. We make him play ours. Creed turned. Keep talking. He wants you alone, so you go alone. But we're there too, hidden, watching, waiting for the moment he shows his hand. Then we move. He'll be expecting that. Probably. But what choice does he have? He's banking on you caring more about Eli than yourself, using that as leverage. We turn it around, use it as bait. Bait for what? For ending this, once and for all. The plan formed between them, dangerous, desperate, the kind of plan that could get them all killed. But it was all they had. When? Trigger asked. Creed checked the time, 1 a.m. 6 hours, dawn. When he's tired, when his guard's down. And if it doesn't work, then we make sure Eli gets somewhere safe, somewhere Marcus can't reach. How? Lisa Winters, the social worker. She's good people. She'll protect him if we can't. They spent the next hours preparing, checking weapons, planning entry points, coordinating timing, speaking in low voices while the destroyed clubhouse stood around them like a monument to everything they were about to lose. At 5 a.m., Creed pulled Bones aside. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, you get Eli. You take him far away. Change his name. Start over. Don't let him spend his life in the system. Creed, Arsimaki, promise me. Bones stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. I promise. Good. They clasped hands. Years of brotherhood in one grip. Don't die, Bondet, said. I'll try. Dawn broke over mountains like blood spreading across canvas. They rode out. 5 bikes heading toward the address Marcus had given. Toward the salvage yard. Toward the endgame. The yard looked different in morning light. Bigger, more menacing. Guard dogs patrolling. Cameras on every corner. Marcus had fortified. They parked a mile out. Creed went on foot. The others circling wide, finding positions, settling in to wait. Creed walked through the front gate, hands visible, no weapons showing. The yard was quiet. No workers. No sounds except wind through stripped metal and the distant bark of dogs. Then Marcus stepped out of the office. He looked calm, confident, like he'd already won. You came, Marcus said. You knew I would. Yeah, because you're predictable, noble, all that hero bullshit that gets men killed. Where's Eli? Safe. For now. Depends on how this goes. You don't have him. Marcus smiled. No, but I know where he is. One call and my guy inside moves him. Somewhere nobody'll find him, just like Sarah. You killed her. Is that what Darren told you? Figures. Always was weak. Couldn't keep his mouth shut. Why'd you do it? Why do you think? She saw something she shouldn't have. My operation. Got curious, got dangerous. So I handled it. And took her kid as insurance. Took her kid as revenue. $900 a month adds up. Over 12 years? That's over $100,000. Pretty good return. Creed's hands curled into fists. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Not anymore. Marcus's smile faded. Here's how this ends. You walk away. Leave town. Never come back. Forget about Eli. Forget everything. And maybe I don't make that call. Or I make the call. Eli disappears. And then I come for your brothers, one by one, until there's nothing left of your little club. You're bluffing. Am I? Marcus pulled out his phone. Want to test that theory? The moment stretched. 2 men, 1 choice. Everything balanced on a knife edge. Then Creed smiled. Yeah, he said, I do. Marcus's expression flickered. Confusion, then understanding, then fear, because the sound that came next was unmistakable. 4 Harley engines roaring to life. The brothers appeared from hiding, bikes screaming across the yard, cutting off exits, surrounding Marcus. Marcus grabbed for his phone. Creed moved, faster than he'd ever moved, closed the distance, hand slamming into Marcus's wrist. Phone flying. It hit the ground and shattered. No call, Creed said. No leverage. Just you and us. Marcus backed up, hand reaching behind his back, coming out with a gun. Don't, Bones warned. Marcus aimed at Creed. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. Maybe, but you go down first. The brothers had surrounded him, 5 against 1. Marcus's hand shook, sweat dripping despite the cold. You don't understand, Marcus said. I got people, connections. You kill me, they come for you. Then they come, but you won't be here to see it. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot exploded across the yard, but it wasn't Marcus who fired. Someone else, from the office. The bullet caught Bones in the shoulder, spun him around. He went down. Bones! Creed screamed. A second man emerged, older, graybeard, cold eyes. Griff. Told you I'd collect, Griff said. He held a rifle, trained on the brothers. Marcus called me yesterday, made an offer. Help him handle you, he clears my debt. Seemed like good business. Big Creed stared at him. At the man who'd once been a brother, who'd just shot another brother. You son of a bitch. Nothing personal, just survival. Marcus laughed, picked up another phone from his pocket. You really thought I'd only have one? Amateur hour. He started dialing. Creed lunged. Marcus fired his gun. The bullet caught Creed in the side. White-hot pain. He stumbled but kept moving. Hit Marcus with his full weight. They went down together in dirt and blood. The gun skittered away. Griff aimed at trigger. Don't move! But Viper was already moving. Dove behind a stripped car. Griff fired. Bullets tearing through metal. Hack grabbed Bones. Dragged him toward cover. blood everywhere. Creed and Marcus rolled in the dirt, fists and elbows and desperate violence. Marcus got on top, hands around Creed's throat. Should have walked away, Marcus hissed. Creed's vision darkened, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then his hand found something in the dirt, a shard of broken mirror from a car. He swung it. The glass opened Marcus's throat, blood sprayed, hot and dark. Marcus's grip loosened. His eyes went wide, disbelieving. He fell sideways, hands clutching his neck, trying to hold in what was pouring out. Should have left him alone, Creed gasped. Marcus tried to speak. Blood bubbled from his mouth, then he went still. Griff saw Marcus fall. His expression changed. Calculation. Survival. He ran for his truck. Trigger was faster. Threw his knife. 20 feet. Perfect rotation. It buried in Griff's calf. He screamed. Went down. The brothers converged. Griff lay in the dirt, clutching his leg. Wait, please. I can explain. Explain to the cops, Trigger said. Sirens approached. Distant, but getting closer. Lisa Winters had made a call, had tracked Creed's phone, had sent help. We gotta go, Hack said. Bones, Creed started. I'm good. Just a through and through. Bones struggled to his feet, blood soaking his shirt. But we gotta move. They ran for their bikes, left Griff screaming, left Marcus bleeding out, left the salvage yard behind as cops poured in. They rode hard, away from Silver Ridge, away from the crime scene, blood on their clothes and pain in their bodies, but alive. All of them alive. 2 miles out, Creed pulled over, collapsed off his bike, the bullet wound in his side screaming, I got you. Bones was there, pressing his hand to the wound. Stay with me. Eli, Creed managed. Lisa's got him. She called while you were fighting, got him moved. Somewhere safe. Protective custody. Real protective custody. Marcus's guy, in custody too. Lisa figured it out. Had cops waiting. It's over. Over. The word felt impossible. Creed stared up at sky turning from dawn to full morning. Gray giving way to pale blue. They'd done it. Against every odd, every obstacle, every betrayal. They'd done it. Ambulance is coming, Hack said. Lisa called them too. Busy lady, Creed muttered. Yeah. He closed his eyes, just for a second, just to rest. But darkness pulled him down into places where pain couldn't follow. The last thing he heard was Bones's voice. Stay alive, brother. We're not done yet. Creed woke to the smell of antiseptic and the steady beep of machines measuring whether he was still worth saving. The hospital room was white. Too white. The kind of sterile brightness that made shadows seem darker by contrast. His side burned where they dug the bullet out. Stitches pulling every time he breathed. Bones sat in a chair by the window. His left shoulder wrapped in bandages. Dark circles under his eyes that said he hadn't slept. How long? Creed's voice came out rough. 36 hours. They had to remove part of your liver. Said you're lucky the bullet missed your kidney by an inch. Don't feel lucky. Yeah, never do after something like this. Creed tried to sit up. Pain exploded through his side. He gasped and fell back. Easy, Bones said. You're gonna rip the stitches. Where are the others? Trigger and Viper are handling the clubhouse. What's left of it? Hack's dealing with lawyers. We're in some trouble, but not as much as we could be. And Eli? Bones hesitated. That pause said everything. What happened? Creed demanded. He's okay. Safe. Lisa got him moved to a secure facility pending permanent placement, but Bones stopped. But what? Social services won't let us near him. Not until the investigation's done. Could be weeks, could be months. They're treating us like suspects instead of the people who saved him. Yeah. Creed stared at the ceiling. White tiles with tiny holes, thousands of them, like the universe was full of small absences. So we did all this, he said quietly. Destroyed Marcus, got Darren arrested, nearly died. And they still won't let us see him. System's the system, even when it's wrong. That's not good enough. I know, but it's what we got. The machines beeped, steady, indifferent, measuring heartbeats like they mattered. Outside the window, morning light climbed over mountains. Another day. Another chance to keep breathing. Griff? Creed asked. In custody, facing attempted murder charges, plus conspiracy, plus a dozen other things. He's looking at 20 years minimum. Good. Is it? Bones turned from the window. He was one of us once, before everything went wrong, and now he's going to die in a cage. He made his choices. So did we. Difference is, we got lucky. Creed looked at him. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the doubt, the weight of everything they'd done settling into lines on his face. You think we were wrong? Creed asked. No, I think we were desperate, and desperate men do terrible things for the right reasons. That's supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you understand we can't go back, can only go forward, and figure out what forward looks like now. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lisa Winters stepped in. She looked different, less professional, more human, like the past few days had stripped away layers of bureaucratic armor. Mr. Mercer? Listen, she said. You're awake. Yeah? How are you feeling? Like I got shot. Fair enough. She pulled up a chair, sat. We need to talk about Eli, about what happens next. They gonna let us see him? Creed asked. Eventually. Right now there are legal complications, the foster care system, the criminal investigation, Darren's arrest, Marcus's death. It's all tangled together. Untangle it. It's not that simple. It is. Eli wants to be with us. We want him with us. Everything else is just paperwork. Lisa's expression softened. You really believe that? That wanting something makes it possible? Yeah, when you want it bad enough. Mr. Mercer, Creed, I admire what you did, truly, but the state has rules, regulations, requirements for foster placement, and you— She paused, choosing words carefully. You and your brothers don't meet those requirements. Because we're bikers. Because you have criminal records. Because you live in a clubhouse. Because your lifestyle doesn't fit the state's definition of suitable guardianship. But beating a kid for 3 years does? No, of course not. That's why Darren's going to prison. But that doesn't automatically qualify you as an alternative. Creed felt rage building, the same rage that had driven him to Marcus's salvage yard, to violence, to crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. But Bones's hand landed on his good shoulder, a warning, a reminder. What are you saying? Bones asked Lisa. I'm saying the process takes time. Background checks, home inspections, psychological evaluations. It could be 6 months before you're approved, maybe longer. And where's Eli during those 6 months? In temporary foster care, with a family that meets state requirements. No. Creed's voice went flat. No more foster families. No more systems. He's been through enough. I understand, but do you? Creed sat up despite the pain, despite stitches pulling. Do you understand what it's like to be 12 years old and have every adult in your life fail you? To believe you're not worth saving? To stand on a highway in freezing rain because you'd rather die than go home? Lisa's eyes glistened. Actually, yes, I do. Because I was that kid once. Different circumstances, same feeling. That's why I do this job. Why I fight for kids like Eli even when the system makes it impossible. The confession hung between them, raw, honest. Then help us, Creed said. Cut through the bureaucracy. Find a way. I'm trying. But I need you to trust the process, even when it feels wrong, even when it takes too long. And if something happens to him while we're waiting, if he gets placed with another Darren Pike, I won't let that happen. I promise. I won't let— Promises don't mean much in this world. Maybe not. But they're all we have. Lisa stood. There's one more thing. Eli's been asking for you every day, multiple times. He's scared. Thinks you abandoned him. The words hit like another bullet. I want to see him, Creed said. You can't. Not yet. Hospital regulations, state custody rules, but— She pulled out her phone. I can deliver a message, video, something he can watch, something that reminds him you're still fighting. Creed stared at the phone, at the chance to reach across distance and bureaucracy, to tell the kid he wasn't alone. Okay, he said. Record. Lisa hit record, held the phone steady. Creed looked into the camera, into Eli's eyes somewhere on the other end. Hey, kid, he started, his voice rough but steady. I know you're scared. I know this feels like every other time adults made promises they couldn't keep. But I need you to hear me. Really, hear me. You're not alone. Not anymore. I got shot. Got pretty messed up. But I'm still here, still fighting, and I'm not stopping until you're home, until you're safe, until you never have to be afraid again. He paused, trying to find words that mattered. The system's slow, it's broken. It fails kids like you every day. But we're going to beat it. Not with violence this time. With patience. With paperwork. With doing things the right way so nobody can take you from us ever again. I know that's hard to believe, but I'm asking you to try. Just a little longer. Can you do that for me? Silence. Just Creed and the camera and everything he couldn't say. 2 weeks, he continued. Give me 2 weeks. Then we're coming for you. No. Legal, official, permanent, and nobody, not the state, not the system, not anyone, is going to stand between us. You got my word, and my word is all I got left that's worth anything. He nodded. Lisa stopped recording. I'll make sure he sees this today, she said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, still a long road ahead. She left, the door clicking shut with a finality that felt like a countdown starting. Bones moved back to his chair. 2 weeks. That's ambitious. It's what he needs to hear. What if we can't deliver? Then we find a way, like we always do. We almost died, Creed, multiple times. Maybe it's time to admit we can't win every fight. Not this one. This one we win or we die trying. Bones was quiet for a long moment. You know he's going to have trauma, PTSD, years of damage that won't heal just because he's somewhere safe. I know, and we're not qualified to help with that. We're bikers, criminals, broken men with our own damage. I know that too. So what makes you think we can give him what he needs? Creed looked at him. Because we've been there, in that darkness, and we found our way out. Maybe we can help him find his. Or maybe we drag him down with us. Maybe, but I'd rather risk that than leave him to drown alone. Outside, clouds moved across sky, light and shadow playing across mountains, the world continuing its indifferent rotation. 3 days later, they discharged Creed. 27 stitches, permanent scar tissue, orders to take it easy for 6 weeks. He ignored the orders, went straight to the clubhouse. The place looked like a war zone, shattered windows boarded up, furniture destroyed or missing, spray paint still visible on walls where Marcus had left his message. But the brothers were there, cleaning, rebuilding, turning disaster back into something resembling home. You should be resting, Trigger said when Creed walked in. I'll rest when I'm dead. That might be sooner than you think if you keep this up. Then I'll die useful. They worked together, sweeping glass, patching walls, not talking much, just the sound of labor and the occasional grunt of effort. By nightfall, the main room looked almost normal, still damaged, still scarred, but functional. They sat around the battered table. Pizza from the only place in town that delivered. Beer that tasted like celebration and exhaustion mixed together. Lisa called, Hack said. Background checks are moving faster than expected. Home inspection scheduled for next week. That's good, Creed said. It's weird is what it is. Usually this stuff takes months. She's pulling strings, calling in favors. Maybe she actually cares. Or maybe she's scared we'll do something stupid if this drags on. Fair assessment. Viper leaned back. You really think they're going to approve us? Look at this place. Look at us. We're not exactly family material. We're exactly family material, Bones said. Just not their definition of it. That's the problem, though. Their definition is all that matters. Then we change their definition. How? By proving them wrong, by showing up, by doing the work. They drank in silence, beer and doubt and the weight of impossible odds. What if we lose? Hack asked quietly. What if they say no and place him somewhere else? Creed set down his beer. Then we appeal. We fight. We keep fighting until there's nothing left to fight with. And after that, there is no after. This is it. The line we don't cross back over. Understanding settled over them. They'd entered territory where retreat wasn't an option, where winning was the only outcome that mattered. All in then, Trigger said. All in, the others echoed. They raised their bottles, clicked them together. A toast to something they couldn't name but all felt. To brotherhood, to broken things healing, to standing in the gap when nobody else would. The inspection came on a cold Tuesday morning. 2 social workers. Clipboards. Judgmental eyes that had already made their assessments. They walked through the clubhouse, taking notes, frowning at motorcycle parts and leather jackets, at walls that still showed signs of violence. This is where the child would sleep? One asked, looking at the room they'd fixed up for Eli. New bed. Clean sheets, books on a shelf, desk for homework. Yeah, Creed said. It's sparse. It's clean, safe, more than he had before. The social worker wrote something, her expression unreadable. They inspected the kitchen, the bathroom, the common areas, every space cataloged and judged. Finally, they stood in the main room, the 5 brothers lined up like soldiers awaiting verdict. Gentlemen, the lead social worker said, I appreciate your efforts, but I have to be honest. This environment is unconventional. There are concerns about appropriateness, about whether a child would thrive here. He was thriving, Bones said, before you took him. That's subjective. Is it? He was eating, sleeping, learning, smiling. How is that subjective? The social worker's expression tightened. Because regulations exist for a reason, to protect children from environments that might be harmful. Harmful like getting beaten? Creed asked. Or harmful like being surrounded by men who'd die before letting him get hurt again? Mr. Mercer, no. You listen. That kid stood on a highway at 2 a.m. waiting to die because every system meant to protect him failed. We didn't fail him. We saved him. And if your regulations can't see the difference between abuse and protection, then your regulations are broken. Silence. Tense and sharp. The social worker looked at her clipboard, then at the brothers, then at the room that had been rebuilt from destruction. I'll file my report, she said finally. The state will make a determination within 2 weeks. They left, taking their judgments with them. Creed stood in the empty clubhouse, feeling like he'd just lost a battle he didn't know how to fight. Well, Viper said, that could have gone better. Or worse, Hack offered. How could it be worse? They could have said no on the spot. They basically did, just took longer to phrase it. Creed walked outside, lit a cigarette, stared at mountains that didn't care about human struggles. Bones joined him. You did good in there. Didn't feel like it. Never does. But you spoke truth. Sometimes that's all you can do. Truth doesn't win cases. Maybe not. But it plants seeds, makes people think. That social worker, she heard you, whether she admits it or not. And if it's not enough, Bones didn't answer. Because they both knew the possibilities, the outcomes that kept them awake at night. Days passed like sentences, each one heavier than the last. No word from the state. No update from Lisa. Just silence and waiting and the slow erosion of hope. Then on day 13, Lisa called. I need you to come to my office, she said, all of you, today. Why? Creed asked. Just come, please. They rode to the social services building. 5 Harleys rumbling through afternoon streets. People staring, always staring, like bikers were zoo animals instead of men. Lisa met them in a conference room. She looked tired, but something else too. Something that might have been hope. Sit, she said. They sat. 5 men braced for impact. Lisa pulled out a folder, set it on the table between them. The state reviewed your case, she began. Considered the inspection report, the background checks, everything. And? Creed could barely breathe. And they're denying your application for foster placement. The words hit like bullets. Creed stood. That's bullshit. Let me finish. Lisa's voice stayed calm. They're denying foster placement, but they're approving something else. What else is there? She opened the folder, pulled out documents. Legal guardianship, shared custody between all 5 of you. It's unconventional, requires court approval, but it's possible. What does that mean? It means Eli would be in your care, permanently. You'd be responsible for his well-being, his education, his future. The state would monitor for the first year, but after that, if everything goes well, you'd have full parental rights. The room went silent. You're serious, Bones said. Completely. There's precedent, group homes, communal living situations. It's rare but legal. And in Eli's case, given the trauma he's experienced and the bond he's formed with you, the psychologist recommended it. The psychologist who met us for 5 minutes? No. The one who's been counseling Eli for the past 2 weeks. He talks about you constantly, about feeling safe here, about wanting to come home. His therapist believes removing him from that support system would cause more harm than keeping him in an unconventional environment. Creed sank back into his chair. So we can take him home. If the court approves, hearings in 3 days, you'll need to present your case. Convince a judge that 5 motorcycle club members can provide a stable home for a traumatized 12-year-old. We can do that. Can you? Because judges are skeptical. They'll look for any reason to say no, any concern, any doubt. Then we don't give them any. Lisa studied them. You really mean it. You're willing to change your lives, your lifestyle, everything, for one kid. He's not one kid, Creed said. He's our kid. That changes everything. Her eyes glistened. Then I'll see you in court, and I'll do everything I can to help. The hearing took place in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and older injustice. The judge was a woman in her 60s, sharp eyes, expression that gave away nothing. The brothers sat in the front row, wearing their cleanest clothes, leather jackets left at home, trying to look like something they weren't, respectable. The prosecutor presented the state's concerns. Criminal records, unconventional living situation, lack of traditional family structure. Then it was their turn. Creed stood, walked to the witness box, placed his hand on the Bible even though he didn't believe in it, swore to tell truth. The judge looked at him. Mr. Mercer, why should I give you custody of Eli Grayson? Creed had practiced answers, professional responses, things lawyers had told him to say, but standing there under that gaze, he threw it all away. Because he asked us to, Creed said simply. Because when the whole world told him he wasn't worth saving, we stopped anyway. Because we've been where he is, scared and alone and sure nobody was coming. And because maybe, broken people are exactly who broken kids need. Not perfect families with perfect houses and perfect smiles that hide perfect lies, but people who've survived their own nightmares and know what it takes to keep breathing afterward. The judge's expression didn't change. You have criminal records? Yes, ma'am. You live in a motorcycle clubhouse? Yes, ma'am. You make your living through means that are questionable. We work construction, mechanic jobs. Whatever's legal and pays bills. We've been straight for 3 years. Can keep being straight as long as we need to be. And if I say no, if I decide Eli needs a traditional family, I'm down. Creed met her eyes. Then I'd ask you to meet him first, to ask him what he needs, because I think you'll find kids know better than systems. They know who makes them feel safe, who they can trust. And if he says he wants to be with us, if he says it freely without pressure, then maybe the system should listen. The judge wrote something. I'd like to speak with Eli, privately, in chambers. Lisa stood. Your Honor, he's waiting outside. Bring him in. They brought Eli in. He looked small in the big courtroom, scared, wearing khakis and a button-down shirt that someone had picked out for him. He walked past the brothers without looking at them, following the bailiff into the judge's private office. The door closed. 20 minutes passed like years. When the door opened again, Eli came out first. His eyes were red, but he was smiling. The judge returned to her bench. I've made a decision. Every man in that courtroom stopped breathing. This case is highly irregular, the judge began. The living situation unconventional, the guardians far from traditional. Under normal circumstances, I would deny this petition without hesitation. Creed's heart sank. However, the judge continued, Eli made a compelling case, as did Mr. Mercer. And after reviewing the evidence of what this child has endured and what these men risked to save him, I'm inclined to try something different. She looked at the brothers. I'm granting temporary guardianship, 6 months supervised. During that time, social services will conduct monthly reviews. Eli will continue therapy. You will maintain steady employment and stable housing. At the end of 6 months, if all requirements are met, I'll grant permanent guardianship, shared custody between all 5 of you, conditional on Eli's continued well-being. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. The room erupted. lawyers gathering papers, bailiff calling next case. But Creed couldn't hear any of it, because Eli was running toward him. The kid hit him like a missile, arms wrapping around Creed's waist, face buried in his chest, whole body shaking with sobs that had been held back too long. "I got you," Creed said, his own voice breaking. "I got you." The other brothers gathered around, creating a wall, a shelter. A family that looked nothing like families were supposed to look, but felt more real than anything else. Outside the courthouse, rain had started, light and clean, washing streets and skies. They walked to their bikes, Eli between them, still not letting go of Creed's hand. "You ready to go home?" Bones asked. Eli looked up at him. "Is it really home, or is this temporary too?" "It's home," Creed said firmly, "for as long as you want it." "Forever?" "Yeah, forever." Eli smiled, the first real smile Creed had seen on his face. "Okay, let's go home." They mounted up, Eli riding behind Creed, arms wrapped tight, the other brothers flanking them, 5 Harleys and 1 kid rolling through rain toward the clubhouse, toward home. The first weeks were hard, adjusting, learning, figuring out how 5 broken men raised 1 traumatized kid. There were nightmares, Eli waking up screaming, convinced he was back at Darren's, Creed sitting with him until dawn, talking or not talking, just being present. There were therapy sessions twice a week. Eli working through trauma with professionals who actually cared, coming home exhausted but lighter. There were school meetings, teachers concerned about gaps in his education, the brothers taking turns helping with homework, even though half of them barely graduated themselves. There were meals together, arguments about vegetables, about bedtimes, about the small domestic battles that made them more family than blood ever did. And slowly, so slowly, Creed almost didn't notice, Eli started healing. He laughed more, smiled easier, stopped flinching when people moved too fast, started believing that tomorrow would come without violence. The clubhouse changed too, quieter, calmer, still rough around the edges but softer in the places that mattered. They installed better locks, better lights, made the space safer for someone smaller. Bones built a workshop in the garage where Eli could learn mechanics. Trigger taught him to fish in the creek behind the property. Hack showed him basic coding. Viper taught him to cook more than just sandwiches. And Creed just tried to be present, to show up, to prove that adults could keep promises. 3 months in, they got the monthly review. Lisa came with her clipboard and her careful questions. She found Eli doing homework at the kitchen table, Bones helping him with math, both of them arguing good-naturedly about whether the answer was 12 or 13. She found the bedroom clean, organized, covered in posters of motorcycles and mountains, a space that felt lived in, loved. She found the brothers cooking dinner together, making too much noise, getting in each other's way, looking like any family that had learned to work in 2 small spaces. "How are things?" Lisa asked Eli when she got him alone. "Good," Eli said, then paused. "Really good, actually." "You feel safe?" "Yeah." "You know you can tell me if something's wrong, if anything happens, if anyone hurts you." Eli looked at her with those old young eyes. "I know, but nothing's wrong. He searched for words. "They're good people. Rough, but good." Lisa smiled. "Yeah, I think they are." Her report to the court was glowing. Recommended continued placement. No concerns. 2 more reviews came back the same. At the 6-month hearing, the judge barely asked questions. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "I've reviewed the reports, read the evaluations, spoken with Eli's therapist. I see remarkable progress." "Thank you, Your Honor. I'm granting permanent guardianship, shared custody as previously outlined. Eli Grayson is officially in your care, with all rights and responsibilities that entails." She paused, looked at the brothers lined up like soldiers again. "I don't know if what you did was legal. I don't know if I'd recommend it as precedent, but I know it worked. And sometimes that has to be enough." Gavel, final. Outside, Eli asked what it meant. "It means you're stuck with us, Tress," Creed said. "No more temporary, no more reviews, just us. Is that okay?" Eli thought about it for exactly 1 second. "Yeah, that's okay." They celebrated at the diner, pancakes and coffee and hot chocolate. The brothers loud and laughing, Eli between them, part of something. An old woman at the next table leaned over. Are you brothers? Yeah, Eli said without hesitation. We're family. The woman smiled. I can see that. Later, driving back to the clubhouse, Creed watched Eli in the rearview mirror. The kid was looking out the window at mountains passing by. Face calm, content. You good? Creed asked. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About how weird life is. How bad things happen and you think you're gonna die. But then sometimes people stop and everything changes. Yeah, sometimes they do. Why did you stop, really? On the highway. You could have kept riding. Creed was quiet for a long moment. Because someone stopped for me once, long time ago, and I figured maybe it was my turn to stop for someone else. I'm glad you did. Me too, kid. Me too. Itashi. 1 year later, they gathered for Eli's birthday. 13. Officially a teenager. The clubhouse was decorated with streamers that Viper had hung too high, cake that Bones had tried to make and partially burned, presents wrapped in newspaper because none of them knew how to use actual wrapping paper. Eli opened them one by one. New boots from Trigger, leather jacket from Hack, socket set from Viper, notebook and pencils from Bones because Eli had mentioned wanting to write, and from Creed, a photograph, framed, of all 6 of them on the porch of the clubhouse. Taken the week Eli came home. Everyone smiling. Family. So you remember, Creed said, where you came from, where you are, where you're going. Eli stared at the photo. Thank you. You're welcome. They ate cake, told stories, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, but felt funny anyway. As evening came, they moved outside, sat on the porch, watching sunset paint mountains in shades of fire. Harleys lined up like sentinels, the world quiet except for wind and the distant sound of highway traffic. Can I ask you something? Eli said. Anything, Creed replied. Do you ever think about her? My mom. The question hung in air like smoke. Yes, he admitted. Sometimes. Do you think she'd be okay with this? With me being here? Creed looked at him. I think she'd be grateful. That you're alive, that you're safe, that you found people who give a damn. I wish I remembered her better. All I have are feelings, impressions, nothing solid. That's okay. Memories fade, but love doesn't. She loved you, I guarantee it, because any mother who fought to keep you deserves that faith. Eli nodded. The Pikes, Darren and Marcus, they took everything from me. My mom, my childhood, my chance at normal. Yeah, they did. But you gave me something else. Something I didn't know existed. What's that? Choice. Before everything just happened to me, I had no control, no say, just survived. But now, he gestured at the clubhouse, the brothers, the world stretching beyond. Now I get to choose where I go, who I become, what matters. And what do you choose? Eli smiled. This, all of it, the broken clubhouse, the weird family, the bikers who don't know how to cook vegetables. The brothers laughed. You're stuck with us then, Bones said. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. They sat in comfortable silence as stars began appearing, one by one, pinpricks of light in expanding darkness. Creed? Eli asked after a while. Yeah. Thank you for stopping, for fighting, for not giving up even when it was stupid and dangerous and probably should have gotten you killed. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I want to. Creed's throat tightened. You're welcome. But more silence. Deeper this time. The kind that held understanding. Inside Trigger started music, something old and familiar. Blues guitar drifting through open windows. You ever gonna tell me what happened to Eddie Malone? Eli asked. Creed smiled. Already did. He stopped. Saved a scared kid. Changed everything. And you did the same. We all did. That's what family does. Stops when it matters. Even when it's hard? Especially then. Eli leaned against Creed's shoulder, small gesture, heavy with trust. And Creed realized this This moment right here was everything. Not the violence, not the victory, but the quiet after, the healing. The ordinary magic of people learning to be family. The scars would stay. Eli's trauma wouldn't vanish overnight. The brothers' past would always chase them. But here, right now, they had something worth protecting. They had each other. Viper came outside with more cake. Hack brought blankets against evening cold. Bones cracked jokes. Trigger told stories. And somewhere in that gathering of broken people trying to be whole, Eli laughed. Really laughed. The sound carrying across the parking lot into darkness beyond. It was the sound of something healing, of nightmares ending, of family being more than blood and biology. It was the sound of home. 2 years later, a letter arrived addressed to Creed Mercer. Prison letterhead. From Darren Pike. Creed almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside, shaky handwriting. I know I don't deserve your attention, don't deserve anything, but I wanted you to know. I testified. Against Marcus, against everyone involved. Told them everything. About Sarah, about the money. About what we did to those kids. All of them. I'm serving 15 years, won't see parole probably. But the other boys, the ones before Eli, they're getting justice now. Settlements, therapy. Someone finally listening. I can't undo what I did. Can't fix the damage. But maybe I can stop it from happening to anyone else. Tell Eli I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough. No, it doesn't fix anything. But tell him anyway. Some of us do terrible things. But some of us, eventually, try to do better. Not for forgiveness, just because it's right. Creed read it twice. Then burned it in the fire pit outside. Eli watched from the porch. What was that? Nothing important, Creed said. Just someone learning lessons too late. Darren? What do you want? To apologize? To explain? To make himself feel better about being a monster? Eli was quiet. Do you think people can change? Really change? Creed thought about it. About the men they'd been. About the men they were becoming. About the distance between those 2 points. Yeah, he said finally. I do. But change doesn't erase what was. Just adds what comes next. So Darren's sorry, but still guilty. Exactly. Good. Because sorry doesn't fix broken bones. Doesn't give back stolen childhoods. No, it doesn't. Eli nodded, accepting, understanding the difference between justice and peace. He was 15 now. Taller, voice deeper. Still carrying scars, but wearing them better. Like they were part of his story instead of the whole story. He worked in the garage after school, learning engines, getting grease under his nails, Bones teaching him the difference between love and maintenance. He got decent grades, had friends, went to therapy less, but still went, learning that healing wasn't destination, but direction. And he rode. Not his own bike yet, still too young legally, but behind Creed, behind the brothers, part of their rides through mountains and valleys, part of the Rust Reapers even if he never wore the patch, part of the family that had chosen him when blood failed. On the anniversary of the day Creed found him on the highway, they rode to that spot. 5 bikes plus Eli, stood in silence looking at pavement where everything changed. What would have happened, Eli asked, if you hadn't stopped? I don't know. Would I be dead? Maybe, or maybe someone else would have stopped. Maybe you'd have found a different way. But you did stop, that's what matters. Yeah, I guess it is. They stood there watching cars pass, each one holding people with their own stories, their own struggles, their own moments of choosing to stop or keep driving. You know what's weird? Eli said. I used to stand here wanting to disappear, wanting it all to end. And now, he gestured at the brothers, at the bikes, at the world still turning. Now I can't imagine not being here, not having this. That's not weird. That's hope. Is it? Because it feels bigger than that. Feels like something I don't have words for yet. Creed smiled. Then maybe you write those words. Make sense of it for yourself and for anyone else standing on highways waiting. You think my story matters? I think every story matters, especially the ones that start in darkness and find light. They remounted, rode back toward the clubhouse, toward home, engines roaring, wind cutting, the world spreading before them like possibility. And somewhere in that ride, between mountain and sky, past and future, broken and healing, they found what they'd been searching for all along. Not perfection, not answers, not even justice. Just family. Complicated, scarred. Imperfect family that showed up when it mattered, that stopped on dark highways, that fought bureaucracy and systems and their own demons to protect one scared kid, and in doing so, saved themselves. 5 years after that night in the rain, Eli turned 18. The brothers threw a party, bigger than usual, friends from school, people from town who'd learned that bikers weren't monsters, just men trying their best. Lisa came, brought her family, smiled watching Eli navigate between worlds, biker and student, survivor and thriver. "You did good," she told Creed. "We got lucky." No, luck is random. This took work, daily work, showing up work. He made it easy, being worth the effort. They're all worth the effort. We just don't stop often enough to prove it. She was right, and Creed knew it. Every kid in the system deserved what Eli got. Deserved someone to fight, to stop, to care beyond paperwork and regulations. But the world was big and cruel, and most people drove past. Still, one saved was infinite to that one. That had to be enough. The party wound down. Guests left. Just family remained. Eli stood on the porch, looking at the same stars they'd watched 3 years earlier. Older now, changed, but the core still recognizable. "I got accepted," Eli said without preamble. "To college?" Creed asked. "Yeah, state school, engineering program, full scholarship." Pride swelled in Creed's chest. "That's amazing. I'm scared." "Of what?" "Leaving, being on my own, not having you guys around to—" He stopped. "To what?" "To remind me I'm worth something." Creed moved beside him. "You take that with you, that knowledge, that worth. It's not dependent on us anymore. It's yours. What if I fail? What if I can't handle it? Then you come home, regroup, try again. That's what family's for. Safety net when you jump." "You'll always be here?" "Always," Eli nodded. "I've been thinking about Mom, about Sarah, about what she'd think seeing me now. And I think she'd be proud that I survived, that I found you, that I didn't let them win. She would be, without question. I want to do something for her, for the other kids in the system, something that matters." "Like what?" "I don't know yet, but something. Maybe advocacy, maybe helping with foster care reform, using my story to change things." Creed smiled. "That's good, important work. Will you help?" "However I can." They stood in silence, father and son without biology, family without paperwork making it official. Just two people who'd found each other in darkness and built light together. "Creed?" Eli said. "Yeah?" "I know I don't say it enough, but I love you, all of you. You're my family, real family, the only one that matters." The words hit harder than bullets ever had. "We love you too," Creed said, voice rough. "More than we know how to say." "Then don't say it. Just keep being here. Keep stopping when kids need stopping for. Keep fighting systems that fail them. We will. Promise. Promise." They stood together watching stars and mountains and the endless dark between. Behind them, the clubhouse glowed, music and laughter drifting out, the sound of broken men who'd learned to heal by helping someone else heal. And in that moment, everything made sense. The violence, the sacrifice, the choices that cost everything. It led here, to this, to family. Imperfect, scarred, beautiful family that proved blood didn't make you bound and DNA didn't make you loved. Choice did. Showing up did. Fighting when everyone else walked away did. That was family. That was home. And as engines cooled in the parking lot and stars wheeled overhead, and another night descended on Black Hollow, Wyoming, one scared kid stood on a porch with 5 broken men who'd become his fathers. And none of them were lost anymore. They were found. Together. Finally. Home. 10 years later, Eli Grayson stood in a courtroom. But this time, he wasn't the kid being judged. He was the lawyer fighting for kids like he'd been. Across the aisle sat a foster parent accused of abuse. Same pattern, same system failures. different kid. But this time someone was fighting back. Eli presented evidence, witness testimony. Everything he'd learned from the brothers about exposing darkness. The judge ruled in favor of the child, removed them from placement, started investigations. Outside, the kid, a girl this time, 9 years old, looked up at Eli. "What happens now, she asked. "Now we find you somewhere safe. Somewhere people actually care." "Like what?" Eli smiled. "Like family, real family. The kind that stops when it matters." He pulled out his phone, dialed. "Creed?" "Yeah, it's me. I got another one. Can the clubhouse take a placement?" On the other end, Creed, older now, grayer, but still standing, answered without hesitation. "Always room for one more. Bring her home." Eli hung up, looked at the scared girl. "Come on," he said. "I want you to meet some people. They're rough, loud, live in a motorcycle clubhouse, but they're good, really good. Are they like you? Better. They taught me everything I know about stopping." He led her to his car, drove toward Black Hollow, toward mountains and a clubhouse that had saved one kid and kept saving others ever since. Because that's what family did. Stopped when it mattered. Fought when systems failed, showed up when everyone else drove past. And in the mountains of Wyoming, 5 aging bikers prepared to do it all again. For one more scared kid. For one more chance at redemption. For one more proof that love wasn't biology. It was choice. And they chose again and always to stop.